This boy was abandoned in an orphanage. Years later, he stopped being treated as human. Chion was used as a test subject for experiments. They called him Test Subject 17. A rank S+ chimera was implanted into his body. Even though it was forced upon him, his child's body absorbed all of the power without any side effects. 64 years ago, he was deployed to exterminate chimeras. 59 years ago, he no longer knew who he was. As the years passed, the experiments only grew worse. Chion no longer looked human. He was nothing more than a caged beast. 20 years ago, he became a complete monster. But 3 days ago, after being injected with Chimera Cell 527, something changed. He became human again. His consciousness awakened, and now, with this terrifying power, Chion can finally be free. One day, a strange red rift appeared out of nowhere in the blue sky. Portals opened, and the world faced sudden destruction without warning. Fierce monsters poured out from a place known as the demonic realm. But to fight the threat, special people finally appeared. They received unique abilities, awakening through the power of mana. Thanks to them, humanity finally had a chance to fight back. Time passed and cities were rebuilt, bringing some peace. Yet the danger remained as monster attacks never ceased. We see a hunter shielding himself from a pack of goblins. The main problem was the scarcity of naturally awakened hunters. They couldn't stop the relentless monster waves. So artificial beings were created in labs as a new solution. These weapons were designed specifically to combat portal creatures. They became known as Chimera Hunters, a new hope for all. We learned they were crafted using prisoners, portal minerals, and monster cells. Humanity's effort to survive made mass production of chimeras possible. It was the perfect combination of science and hunters, greatly reducing the death rate. Over time, rebuilding cities and society could finally move forward for real. The scene shifts to an illegal lab where 2 researchers do a final night check. They go to the basement, and one remarks that subject number 17's arms look rotten. One warns the other not to get close, but he says it's fine since its brain doesn't work. He points out the rotting right arm, wondering if it's a side effect. The scary part is the creature's eye seems to see what's coming. Scared, one tells the other to forget it since the chimera is getting discarded anyway. They just turn and leave, leaving the creature alone in the dark. In the director's office, they report that number 17 is a lost cause. They explain his body is nearly destroyed. The director asks how long he has left. The scientist answers a month at most, surprising his partner. The director decides to use him in an operation to protect retreating hunters. Finally, he orders them not to give the return command, leaving the chimera to die. The scene shifts to the demonic realm. The chimera is alone on the battlefield. A giant flying monster dives to attack our lone soldier, but the chimera isn't shaken. It uses its powers to trap the creature midair. Several other monsters attack from afar, throwing fireballs at it. A giant worm bursts from the ground and roars, trying to intimidate the fallen chimera. Suddenly, the chimera is launched upwards, taking the monster totally by surprise. Using the momentum, it slices through several flying enemies nearby. Then it gathers a huge amount of mana, creating a lightning sphere. With absurd power, it fires a giant lightning bolt that hits everyone on the ground. The electricity is so intense that the monsters are fried in seconds. Hunters watch from afar, commenting on how incredible the S-Class Chimera is. One notes the portal shows no signs of closing, even after 3 days. But he says not to worry. With the Chimera there, they can handle it. One hunter draws his sword saying they only need to take care of one thing now. They just need to eliminate the small monsters that escaped the main attack. Suddenly, the red portal agitates, showing signs of closing. A hunter confirms the closing signal. The mission is over. The group leader shouts for everyone to leave because they're going home. Meanwhile, the chimera keeps fighting, finishing off the last remaining monsters. During the retreat, a female hunter asks if they aren't taking the chimera back with them. The leader replies they were ordered to leave it, as it will die soon anyway. The young woman feels bad, but her partner tells her not to pity the creature. He explains those things are just weapons meant to follow orders. The chimera is then gravely wounded in battle, its hand pierced. But it doesn't stop fighting. In the end, they are just monsters. Its only mission was to ensure the hunter's safe return. Nothing else mattered. A disgusting monster with human teeth appears, drooling and ready to attack. Even exhausted, the Chimera gathers energy once more, preparing a final powerful strike. It fires a lightning blast, showing it understood the order to stay behind. After all, nothing else existed for it but fulfilling its final mission. The order was not to return. Hand on the ground, the mission was finally complete. Even while breaking apart, the Chimera's instinct still tried to return, but it was too late. The final order was clear. Return was not allowed. And so it ended. The official mission result was 0 hunter deaths, with the Chimera listed as discarded. In total, it single-handedly eliminated over 1,800 monsters before falling. Then it's erased past surface, revealing it was once a kidnapped human. His memories play like a movie, but his broken brain understands nothing. Even without comprehending, he watches every scene of his past life intently. The scene shifts to 79 years ago when a man left him at an orphanage. Years later, the director beats him for hitting a friend who teased him. The orphanage door closes, showing his life inside wasn't easy. Tired of him, the caretakers kick him out into the snow, leaving the boy alone. Lying on the ground, men in black find him and take him away. He ends up in a lab, becoming the newest test subject for experiments. There, he becomes number 17, and the scientists order him never to escape. Scientists record injecting S+ class cells into number 17 for the experiment. Now they watch to see how the boy's body reacts. To everyone's surprise, he had no side effects, keeping his normal human appearance. Noticing his unique constitution, they decide to push harder until he finally reacts. The scientists gathered to continue heavy testing on the boy. The memory shifts to 64 years ago, showing him being trained to fight. Older now, he starts being used in real battles against monsters. With his electric powers, he destroyed any threat in his path. He became a hero, saving people from constant monster attacks. A mother and daughter thank him profusely for saving their lives. Despite others' pity, he just said it was okay, showing no emotion. Then the memory jumps to 59 years ago, and he starts getting confused. He looks around, not remembering what he was doing or how he got there. Seeing him standing still, a scientist approaches and asks if the memories confused him. The man celebrates wildly, announcing that side effects have finally manifested. Years later, results of 15 years of monster cell testing are noted. He became the lab's masterpiece, a weapon with immeasurable power. 20 years ago, someone treated him kindly, saying he was a good boy. But his bestial appearance scared a woman who screamed in fear upon seeing him. People judged him, saying not to trust him because he was just a monster. The memory returns to 3 days ago, the moment he used his last attack. With his body breaking apart, he confirms all missions were completed. Alone, he watches the sunrise, accepting his fate in that forgotten place. But suddenly, a strong, mysterious light begins to shine from within his remains. This energy starts rebuilding his body, beginning with his spine. The 527 monster cells begin regenerating rapidly. The flesh and muscles of the former number 17 start reforming. Then everything is covered by an explosion of light, blinding the battlefield. He reemerges as human again, wondering what the hell is happening. Against all odds, the Chimera hunter revived, now totally free from everything. Walking alone, he wonders if he's finally managed to become human again. But looking at his hand, he sees the monster cells are still active. The number 17 brand is gone. He realizes he's been discarded and maybe, just maybe, he's free. His resurrection was due to Phoenix cells raising him from the ashes. Even if it should have been impossible, his body has returned to its peak strength. He feels better than ever now that the side effects and spells have vanished. With his life as number 17 behind him, he wonders if he can live as a human. He remembers a scientist telling him he should try to help others. The advice was to try and live by saving at least 1,000 people. The scientist suggested the name Cheon-dun, but he thinks that's a huge joke. Now he just wants to move forward, but the thought of revenge creeps in. He knows that for revenge, he'd need a target right in front of him. Honestly, it's been so long that the desire for vengeance has almost faded. He decides if he ever finds them, he'll figure out what to do then. So he faces the sun, ready to start a new journey on his own terms. Decided, he resolves to try living like a normal human for now. But to start, he realizes he needs clothes since he's completely naked. Walking through the desert, he can't even remember the last time he wore clothes. He finds a forest and a river but has no idea how to make clothes out here. Carefully, he steps into the bushes to take a look around. Suddenly, he's startled by something he finds in the brush. He finds a dead griffin and notes that despite its strength, it has no major injuries. Looking closer, he sees some blood and concludes it died from poison. He thinks this is great since he really needed leather to clothe himself. To skin it, he morphs his own arm into a sharp, stylish blade. He remembers lab dissection classes, planning the perfect cut on the creature. But as he touches the beast, a purple aura hits him, startling him. He realizes the griffin's body is releasing a massive amount of poison. Since his body doesn't react to it, he decides to take the hide anyway. Job done, he drapes the skin over himself, remarking it's not bad for a first try. Next, he goes to the river and starts washing the hide of the beast he scavenged, but he notices the leather is very hard, much different than he imagined. Then the guy gets an idea for an easy fix. He starts punching the hide with all his might, beating it non-stop. He wonders if this is how you tan leather, but continues the process anyway. After a while, the skin is finally ready and super soft, just the way he wanted. The hunter thinks the size is good too, preparing to put the outfit on. But back at camp, a baby griffin with its head on fire suddenly shows up. The creature startles him as he was super focused on cutting his new outfit. With one strike, he makes a hole in the middle of the skin for his head. Then he improvises a belt with a piece of vine to tie around his waist. In the end, the monster leather outfit fits perfectly and looks quite stylish. He just notices the beast's poison hasn't fully left his new gear. Too lazy to clean it. He's shocked to see the baby griffin wasn't dead. The little thing starts screaming, and he feels he can understand what it's saying. He realizes the creature is also the immortal type, which is why it was still alive. In the past, he would have killed it without thinking. But now the beast is too weak to attack. So he says they both got lucky as this is his second life and he wants to enjoy it. He says goodbye, adding that if fate wills it, they'll meet again somewhere. With the clothing problem solved, he decides he needs to find a house now. But out of nowhere, a giant screeching centipede appears, surprising him. The monster stares down at him, ready to turn our hero into its next meal. Despite the danger, he just complains that the cave is too dark for him. With a single blow, he cuts off the beast's head, which gushes green liquid. Ignoring the dead bug, he decides this cave is no good for living. The search continues, and he ends up on a mountain full of snow everywhere. But there, he runs head-on into a furious yeti that doesn't appreciate his visit. He realizes food will be hard to find there, so he decides pass and leave. Later, he finds some weird mushrooms, but the smell is so bad he passes. Finally, he finds a dank, disgusting cave, so he decides to look elsewhere. After much searching, he finally finds an interesting spot at the top of a cliff. The landscape with the waterfall is incredible, surprising him with nature's beauty. Curious, he decides to take a closer look and jumps from the top without fear. With a superhero landing, he slams down at the river's edge, kicking up a massive splash. He notices the water is super clean and best of all, full of fish. The fish are monstrous piranhas, and he already thinks about roasting one to eat. With easy food, he imagines building a house nearby would be a good idea. The place also has flowers and very pure air, which gets him more excited. He stands in the middle of the clearing, feeling he finally found the perfect place. With a smile, he decides Cheon Daewon's house will be built right there. The ground is clear, a perfect place to start his new life of peace. But suddenly, a dark electrical portal appears in the sky, shattering the silence. Something is forcefully spat out of the portal and crashes to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Amidst the smoke, he sees a small robot, all broken and sparking. Then the robot's red eyes light up, and it asks if this is the demon realm. He admires the flowers and the scenery, noting how fresh the air is around there. The place is nice, and he can even hear the waterfall nearby. Smiling at the sky, he decides he's finally going to build his house. To start, he needs good land, so he uses his powers to clear the area. Using energy threads, he slices through multiple trees at once without any difficulty. The thick trunks fall like they're nothing, showing his absurd strength. With the trees down, he thinks the terrain is good enough to begin. He uses his powers to sort and gather the best quality wood. He believes the trees he cut are enough, but notices the ground is uneven. So to level the terrain, he simply punches the earth with full force. The place becomes perfectly flat and sunny, leaving him quite satisfied with the result. He touches the ground, realizing his hands and feet move as he wishes without orders. To begin, he lifts a heavy trunk to plant at the corners of the construction. He feels free and has fun. This is the first house he's ever built. Next, he starts laying the floorboards, advancing very quickly in the work. Without nails, he decides to use slug monster slime to glue the house walls. He explains that when the slime hardens, it becomes solid like stone and waterproof. For final touches, he plants special trees around the construction. He's happy because most monsters won't even be able to get close. The house turned out cozy, and he likes the final result of his first work. But he feels something is missing and tries to remember what a normal house has. He recalls a lab class about what houses were like in the old days. In the videos, he saw people usually grew things in the yard. He considers having a dog, soon discards the idea as impossible. So he decides to make a garden, but doesn't know what can grow in the demon realm. Suddenly, gets an idea remembering the snowy mountain he saw nearby. Excited, he wonders if he can plant mandrakes, a very special plant from there. The scene shifts to the mountain, and he notices it's snowing hard, which is quite normal. The snow reminds him of the day he was kidnapped and taken to the lab. He recalls it was so cold that being taken by strangers seemed better. Dwon thinks being a chimera has its advantages. He doesn't need to worry about cold or hunger. He feels the massive amount of demonic energy, realizing he is very close to his destination. Then the warrior finally finds the small plants in the snow, relieved it wasn't a wasted trip. It's explained that these are mandrakes, plants extremely sensitive to any change in the environment. He decides that to take one, the best thing would be to choose the youngest and easiest to adapt. Very carefully, he starts to pull up the small plant, already preparing for its deadly scream. But to his surprise, the mandrake only makes a cute sound, leaving him totally confused. Intrigued, Dwon grabs another happens, and it also reacts in the same calm way. He observes the two little creatures in his hands and wonders if they are talking in their sleep. It turns out the scream only happens when they are raised by humans in places with low energy. It makes sense they don't scream there, but he finds it odd they don't even try to run from him. He has an epiphany and realizes they see him as an equal because of his cells. Thinking this is very good, he tucks them into his makeshift belt. After all, less stress is better. He even starts imagining that if they grow strong, he'll ask for some roots to make tea. But a chill runs up his spine as he remembers that harvesting the fruits by force makes them poisonous. Suddenly, he senses the presence of hunters nearby and wonders what they would be doing on such a dangerous mountain. With a grin, he decides to check the gate to see what these guys are up to. The scene changes, showing desperate hunters used as bait by their companions. A pack of white monsters charges at them, ready to attack without mercy. The bizarre creature opens its mouth, revealing sharp teeth and several tentacles instead of a tongue. One hunter manages to create an ice barrier to defend against the beast's fierce attack, but he panics seeing the monster's strength. Feeling this would be his end, his partner shouts the barrier is about to break, unable to withstand the pressure for long. Seeing the cracks, the man regrets volunteering to hunt the chimera. With the barrier shattering, he screams for help, completely given over to despair. Suddenly, something powerful hits the ground with huge impact, kicking up a snow cloud. The hunters are shocked, seeing all the monster rabbits defeated instantly. They spot a mysterious silhouette emerging amidst the smoke and wonder if it's a person. And there, standing with a serious expression, was Dwon, who appeared just in time. But one snow rabbit was still alive and growls at him, ready to attack. Dwon releases a dark, powerful aura, saying it's been a long time since he felt that. With a scream of terror, the last monster rabbit flees desperately along with the rest of the pack. The hunters can't believe it, wondering how rank B monsters ran just by looking at him. One of them recovers from the shock and thanks Daewon for saving their lives. Next, they introduce themselves as Oh Sung-ju and Kim Tae-hoon, and he responds that his name is Cheon Daewon. Daewon thinks everything is very strange. He never heard that name and his clothes are weird. Dwon then asks why they are there since the place is super dangerous for hunters. The man answers it was for money. They accepted a mission to capture a chimera. He comments he heard about a test subject's escape which makes our hero suspicious. Dwon ignores it and says he'll grab a crystal to return, but the hunter asks where his gear is. The guy explains his companions took everything and fled, using the two as bait. He remembers the traitor's plan, and Dwon realizes the gate crystal is with them. The hunters ask if he has a plan because their time is running out rapidly. We discover hunters die if left exposed to demonic energy for too long. One of them begs for help, but Dawon concentrates, uses his powers, and says he found it. Without even answering, Dawon takes an absurd leap upwards, leaving the two hunters totally shocked. They shout desperately, asking where he's going as they see him disappear into the sky. The scene changes to a small robot observing a bright light falling towards it. The little robot stops at the edge of a cliff, realizing that place looked very dangerous. And suddenly, the traitor hunters appear, shouting that now is the time to capture the target. The robot then activates its combat mode because the order is clear. If dangerous, eliminate. With that, the little machine advances full throttle at them, starting a super intense battle there. Arriving at the battle location, Dawon wonders if he arrived too late to solve the mess. He sees the ground stained with blood and concludes the hunters must have fled in a hurry. Seeing the abandoned equipment and footprints, he deduces the creature shifted form during the fight. He remembers the conversation about a mechanical test subject that escaped from a lab. It's explained that it is made of liquid metal and can change shape freely. Dawon gives a grin, finding it impressive that the creature defeated 5 rank B hunters alone. The scene goes back to the other hunters, and one of them, Seonju, says he's done for. His body is corrupted. His friend despairs and begs him to hold on because his wife is pregnant. Taehoon tries to give hope, saying a miracle can still happen right now. But looking up, he gets completely shocked by the scene before him. And there was Do-woon, glowing and carrying all the luggage the others abandoned. Without thinking twice, the hunter kneels in the snow and begs for his help. Dawon comments he knows there are no more gate stones because they were all stolen. The man then offers 2 checks for 1 million each, saying it's their only chance to survive. Our hero takes the money, thinking that although he doesn't need it now, it will be useful in the human world. Money in hand, he simply breaks a gate stone and offers a piece to the guys. A portal opens and the hunter thanks him, saying he'll never forget this favor. While the man tries to help his friend, Dawon stands there staring at the money received. He asks weren't stones 200,000, but the hunter explains they are worth 1 million today. Hearing that, our hero feels he ended up charging much more than necessary. So with a grin, he says he'll return the change differently. Suddenly, Dawon releases blue mana, and the hunter gets scared because that was very dangerous. It's explained if manas clash, both can die instantly. But to everyone's surprise, the demonic energy is purified, leaving the man in shock. His friend recovers and the 2 hugs, celebrating being alive in disbelief. They thank him on their knees, wondering who the hell Cheon Do-woon really is. Back in his territory, he seems calm and thoughtful after all this confusion. He arrives at his cabin, satisfied with having an unexpected profit on this trip. He realizes the mandrake woke up and decides it's time to plant it. With that, he starts digging a hole in the earth, preparing a new home for the small creature. After planting, the mandrakes look very sad, releasing an aura of unhappiness. Dawon realizes they don't seem happy at all and wonders if it's hunger. So he resolves to give them some mana since they usually love it. Instantly, the little creatures cheer up and he is satisfied seeing their improvement. But suddenly, he stops and senses strange energy approaching where he is. He quickly figures it must be the target the hunters were tracking, hiding right there in the brush. Dawon decides not to worry about it now and resolves to stash the cash he earned. Inside his cabin, he begins organizing all the things he brought in the backpack. We see he was well prepared with cooking gear, sleeping bags, and even gate stones. He finds a ramen packet and remembers the last time he ate it was at the orphanage. With a big grin, he says he's hungry and decides he'll cook that ramen. He goes to a nearby river to get the right amount of water for the recipe. But as he approaches, bizarre aggressive fish jump out of the water. He remembers people usually put things in ramen to upgrade the dish. Right? With that in mind, he decides fish would be good and punches one of the monsters. He continues searching for ingredients and finds eggs in a nest, a perfect substitute. No green onions nearby, so he climbs a tree and grabs an herb that should work. With all ingredients in the pot, he decides it's time to go back and cook. But from afar, the little robot watched him approaching silently. The robot is curious seeing the man cook and tries to understand what he's doing there. Back at his cabin, he lights the fire and notes the recipe doesn't say when to add the fish. So he decides to boil everything at once, even if the combination seems weird. The planted mandrakes start smelling the food and seem quite curious. But the smell is so strong and strange they faint, wondering if ramen was always like this. The robot also smells the food and drools with the desire to try it. It decides it also wants some and starts thinking of a plan to get it. It remembers something seen in the lab and transforms its foot into a dog paw. The machine turns into a puppy, remembering humans like dogs and help poor things. The fake dog approaches whimpering, but Dawon knows immediately the mechanical creature was following him. He understands the robot's plan, turned into a dog and pretended to be hurt just to gain sympathy. He realizes the robot is young and learning, wondering how it escaped the lab. The puppy drools in front of the pot, waiting anxiously to receive some food. Seeing the bizarre appearance of that grub, he decides to try it anyway to taste it. He serves some to the dog, and the two begin eating together at the makeshift table. But tasting the food, the creature gets confused, not understanding that strange taste. The scene changes to a flashback showing child Daewon eating ramen happily with other orphans. We see him enjoying the warm meal with pure joy and satisfaction. Then the memory of that flavor returns powerfully, making him remember when he was 7. The robot sits in the middle of the forest, wondering why the good smell disappeared suddenly. Turns out the smell was so strong that the mandrakes got sick and vomited a strange liquid. Suddenly, Daewon turns to the child and tells the dog if it's eaten, it's time to leave. The puppy turns and starts limping away on a back leg, but the boy catches him. Earlier, he limped on the left leg, not the right. Embarrassed, the robot runs off limping correctly while young Daewon gives a grin. After eating, he decides to wash clothes because he can't stand wearing that leather tunic anymore. He grabs a piece of wood, thinking he needs to be careful not to break the clothes. But he hits too hard and accidentally breaks the ground all around him. The piece of wood lies there, and he realizes the mess he just made. Even exhausted, he says it's okay. He still has one last try at washing. He notices the mechanical creature turned into a stone and continues nearby watching him. We see the little robot followed him the entire time he washed dishes in the river. And even when he went to look at flowers, the thing was there disguised as a tree just watching. Suddenly, a bee appears, and the robot in tree form gets scared. It runs desperately screaming, revealing its original form again. It's revealed it hates bees, and its mental age is that of a 5-year-old child. The speech is strange and mechanical, but that doesn't worry our hero one bit. Daewon understands this is a common side effect in young chimeras with implanted knowledge. The little robot starts overheating from panic while Daewon just admires the beauty of the flowers. In the end, he manages to finish the job, realizing washing clothes is harder than it seemed. He's happy with the result. At least he got a clean shirt now. But the shirt looks a bit small, so he leaves it drying and goes to check the mandrakes. The robot, still disguised as a stone, just watches everything from afar. Very curious. It grabs the chance and takes the shirt drying on the line. It tries to put on the clothes imitating what Daewon just did with his. With the shirt serving as a tunic, the robot declares itself the new owner of that piece of clothing. Suddenly, it starts transforming, gaining hair in a much more human form. And now as a little girl, the creature feels perfect and complete with her new look. Arriving at the garden, Daewon sees wilted mandrakes and doesn't understand what's happening. He finds it strange since he cleared everything. But digging again, he finds something different. The guy discovers various bugs underground and realizes he almost killed the plants by mistake. With that, he decides he needs to make a real garden the size of his house. But suddenly, the little girl appears behind a tree, trying to talk to him shyly. He's surprised and realizes this time she finally wants a real conversation. The girl asks if that house is his, and he confirms yes. That's where he lives. The girl asks if he's a native, and he thinks about teasing her. So he plays along and asks which tribe she came from, leaving the girl confused. She points and says she came from the waterfall and he invents the Cocoa tribe. The girl confirms clumsily, but he reminds her the clothes are his and she says finders keepers. He lets it slide and asks what she wants. She explains she was expelled and needs a favor. With that, the little girl screams with all her might that she wants to live there with him and begs him to let her. He asks why live there and she answers awkward. The place has no bugs and also because there's a house, making everything seem much safer to her. She insists on the request and Daewon understands the poor thing just needed a place to rest in peace. He agrees but warns she'll have to help, making the girl super excited. The first task, he explains, is preparing the field for a new mandrake home. She grabs the tool confidently, guaranteeing she's very strong and can help. Said and done, the girl shows off her absurd strength plowing the earth. He observes everything, thinking she doesn't even try to hide who she is or maybe doesn't know how to act. So he introduces himself and asks her name, leaving her totally surprised and speechless. She says she doesn't have a name, but will create one inspired by a flower she saw before. With a shout, she announces her name is now Kim Nari, correcting Dawon excitedly. They quickly finish the stone fence, leaving everything ready for the mandrakes. The little plants are super happy in their new home, and he thinks he should have done this sooner. But suddenly, he notices Nari is quiet with a very strange look on her face. He asks why she's crying, and the girl explains the mandrakes reminded her of her friends. Dawon is confused. He thinks it's impossible she had friends in the lab. She has a flashback of a hunting scene with other bizarre creatures in the forest. The girl tells him she saw a monster resembling a chick, and he says that's normal around here. He deduces a group of monsters is probably attacking the chick right now. She says the thing seemed to be suffering and would soon be devoured since it was hurt. Dawon asks if she wants to save it, but her head hurts because of her old commands. He suggests if she helps, maybe the creature survives, and asks if she wants to go see. Instantly, she screams she'll be right back and flies off at high speed into the woods. The scene changes to a swarm of mantis-like monsters attacking something. The little white creature is hit mercilessly, screaming in pain on the desert floor. But a girl appears to defend it, screaming at the monster not to hurt the little animal. Eyes full of tears, she promises with determination to save it. The scene changes and a boy cries. His friend might become a test subject for being the best. In another memory, a yellow creature lies desolate on the ground. A flashback shows children beating a robot for being different. Someone punches the ground with hate, screaming desperately for it all to stop. Back to the fight, the girl is thrown by the force of the giant insect. She gets irritated, saying bullying the weak is disgusting. With all her rage, she screams that this is wrong and attacks the beast. The scene cuts to Chaeyeon Daonoon analyzing plants, asking if they are tasty. The girl runs to him happy he finally returned home, but she panics, screaming the little creature won't wake up. The white thing remains unconscious in her arms, eyes swirling dizzy. Cheon Dawon asks her to calm down, then realizes something about that monster. The girl despairs, screaming the beast is totally out. Indeed, the creature remains passed out with a bad look. Crying, she asks if it's dying. He approaches to check. He uses mana and says, fortunately, there are no fatal injuries. It's explained the monster's energy shrank, changing its color and size. He confirms this is the same immortal creature he faced before. Seon Dawoon wonders why it shrank, while the girl wants to know if it will die. He explains it's just malnourished from not being able to hunt. He gave it some mana. It will recover if left alone. The girl falls silent, remembering the sad scene of another abandoned creature. She insists if they leave it, it will die, showing how weak it is. With tears in her eyes, she begs to raise it, promising to take care of it and train it well. He smiles and warns it might get huge, but she promises to feed it little. Cheon Dawoon finally agrees, and the girl is filled with joy. The creature wakes up confused, drooling, wondering where it is. Suddenly, Cheon Dawoon is surprised to hear the creature saying goo like a pigeon. The animal glares at him angrily, thinking this is the guy who ended his family. The girl understands nothing while the creature trembles with pure fear. Happily, she lifts the animal and celebrates it woke up. It wonders what she's doing there. She hugs it tightly. It screams for her to let go, confusing Cheon Dawoon. It yells again to be released. Cheon Dawoon is amazed he understands it. Later, the girl says the treatment is done, and she's chosen a name. She suggests Goo since it says goo like a pigeon. Cheon Dawoon thinks it's a good idea, but Goo gets irritated. They can't just give it any name. It already has one. The girl thinks it's crying and throws a bucket of water on it, thinking it was thirsty. She worries it's soaked while Goo begs for less water. Seeing things increasing, Cheon Dawoon decides to make a shelf to organize everything. He starts measuring. Doesn't need to be big, but when he tries to cut the wood with his knife, the blade can't pierce it. He's confused. He made the table and chairs this way. Goo explains the wood color is different. The one he's using is much softer. Cheon Dawoon asks if different woods have different hardness. Shocking Goo. The little animal starts to answer that obviously the red ones, but realizes something. Goo is amazed and asks if he understood what was said, while Cheon Dawoon thinks about red wood. Suspicious, the animal is on alert. Cheon Dawoon decides to use telepathy to be sure. But trying, his mind is invaded by a dark vision. He finds no redwood. Gu is shocked his telepathy was blocked instantly. Trembling, he asks mentally if Cheon Dawon can hear him. He explains it's not like hearing, but like human words appearing in his head. He questions if it isn't weirder for a monster to understand human speech. We understand Gu is an intelligent monster, a rare species. Changing the subject, Cheon Dawon asks directly if they haven't met before. Gu confirms and says he wanted to find him again, confusing the big guy. He explains the reason. He was saved and wanted to help at least once. Cheon Dawon says that's perfect and asked for that help right now, leaving Gu stuttering. Gu accepts the deal to guide him to where the red trees grow. The scene cuts to the girl running from an explosion, screaming she hates the lab. Fallen on the ground, she despairs at the surrounding fire, complaining it's too hot. Another bigger explosion throws the girl far. She panics, thinking the lab came to get her. Terrified of the fire, a mysterious man appears. His tracker confirms the target is a mechanical creature. He appears amidst the flames. Attacking a child isn't cool, but he has to. The guy prepares a fire attack. His life is also on the line. He launches a powerful fire blast at the defenseless girl. The villain yells he'll end everything while the girl shrinks, expecting the worst. But Cheon Dawon appears and stops the fire, complaining he just wanted to finish his closet and eat. Gu warns saving the girl is priority. Dawon's eyes shine. We discover the girl, Kim Nari, is afraid of fire and isn't normal. Cheon Dawon decides to put out the fire first while Gu calls the guy trash. The enemy is amazed and orders him out of the way. His time is running out. Cheon Dawon cuts off the enemy's chat. He talks too much. The villain gets furious, screaming Cheon Dawon is an arrogant bastard. With hatred, he launches another fire blast screaming for him to move. But Cheon Dawon doesn't even budge. He just points a finger and a light shines. Suddenly, massive energy beam goes toward the guy, swallowing all the fire. The enemy is hit full force, not understanding what happened. He's completely shocked by the power level, thrown far by the explosion. After the dust settles, he asks Nari if she thinks it's okay now. The little girl wipes her tears. Still surprised, he swept away the fire. He tells her when she has a fear, just knock it out to solve it. To wake up the passed-out enemy, Cheon Dawon steps on his head unceremoniously. He pulls the guy's hair hard to lift him from the ground. Surprise, he's holding only a wig. The enemy was actually bald and had the number 19 tattooed on his forehead. Everyone is shocked the enemy was bald and so young too. The reflection on his bald head shines in the sunlight, highlighting the lack of hair. Nari bursts out laughing. A bald guy scene is too hilarious. She says now he's not scary anymore, leaving Cheon Dawon thoughtful. He reflects that this guy wasn't someone Kim Nari should fear or lose to. Gu explains that telepathy can see memories and also transmit them to others. The scene changes to a lab where a mad scientist gives a sinister laugh. We see his face close up with an evil smile and glasses shining with wickedness. A slimy creature shrinks away. The scientist says it finally developed an ego. He extends his hand with a blue aura, saying it's just a durability test. A strong light explodes, showing the test wasn't friendly at all. Back to the present, Cheon Dawon praises Nari. It was a step against trauma. He wonders what to do with the guy. Gu sits on his head while Nari has an idea. Hands on hips, she announces proudly she had a great idea. The idea was simply to tie the bald guy under a giant waterfall. Nari explains if he gets wet, the fire goes out so the bald uncle isn't scary. She keeps shouting the bald uncle is evil, but Cheon Dawon reprimands her. With a pouty face, she stares at the big guy who thinks she's improving faster. Gu asks what he's doing. Dawon says he's getting water for ramen. Nari gets super excited, yelling his fish ramen is delicious. He asks if the Coco tribe also eats ramen. She dives into the water to disguise. The hanging bald guy concludes this man is at least an rank hunter. While Nari swims, he thinks maybe Cheon Dawon hides even greater power. A shadow hunter? But eating ramen here is too much. Suddenly, Nari emerges with two bizarre fish yelling she fished. Cheon Dawon says use only one. She prepares to put the beast in the pot. The prisoner is terrified, thinking boiling that monster will make everything stink. Nari runs happily, super psyched to eat the ramen they'll prepare. But halfway, she stops everyone with a shout, asking them to wait a bit. The bald guy despairs and offers to cook if they get him down from there. Under a spotlight, the bald guy prepares To some, it was just simple ramen. He opens the pack with utmost care, separating seasoning precisely. But for him right now, holding the noodles, things were much more serious. His life depended on it, while those two stared with scary auras. He decides on the standard method. He doesn't know how to cook otherwise. The water quantity is entrusted to his sixth sense since there are 3 packs. First, he throws noodles and seasoning into boiling water at an exact time. For perfect control, he counts 270 heartbeats. At the exact moment, he lifts the noodles and yells, "It's time for the air bath." He regrets having no kimchi, but smiles satisfied that he did his best. The dish is ready. A status window appears showing he has no regrets. He turns and offers the pot, inviting the group to taste his creation. Sean Daewon grabs some with chopsticks and brings it to his mouth ready to try. The scene shows the 4 sitting at the table enjoying the meal. Suddenly, everyone's reaction is pure shock. The taste was surprising. The food was so good, they feel like they're in heaven tasting pure flavor. Nari praises the food asking if humans eat like this. Cheon Da-woon was also surprised. After eating everything, Gu is full, letting out a satisfied burp. The bald guy approaches proudly, asking if the food was to their liking. Cheon Da-woon tells him to ask for whatever he wants, leaving the cook shocked. He explains the food was too good to be free. He'll grant a wish. The bald guy gets awkward but stammers that in that case has a request. Suddenly, he bows and begs Cheon Da-woon to teach him. He asks to become strong like the hunter, leaving our hero confused. The guy explains he's the strongest hunter he's ever seen, so he wants to be his apprentice. He offers to cook, saying he's great at frying chicken because of his dad. Also offers to be a shuttle fetching supplies. But Cheon Da-woon interrupts and asks why he attacked Kim Nari before. He gets confused, but the hero whispers she's from the Coco tribe. He understands. Tears in his eyes, the bald guy answers the reasons are personal. He yells he doesn't need a reward, just wants to pass the hunter test. Cheon Da-woon orders him up, but the guy cries asking why. As thanks for the food, the hero says he'll fight him a bit first. Suddenly, Nari appears, offering to fight the bald guy first. She remembers he said to knock out fear, and she wants to try putting out fire. The guy laughs at her saying he is weak, not to wound. The hero shows a giant black rock and asks if he can break it. He recognizes it as black iron, harder than diamond. Laughing nervously, he says to break that, you need to be a rank. Instantly, something crushes the rock, throwing the guy far with the impact. He's terrified, sweating cold, not understanding what happened. Nari appears on a stool, calling the bald uncle to finally fight her. We are introduced to Nam Ki-suk, a natural awakened who was once a promising hunter. He awakened abilities at just 8, a special case. He focused on training, releasing firepower during the exam. Combining talent with hard work, he grew fast. The hunter had explosive growth and fame, living perfect days. He dreamed of becoming the best, but something unexpected happened. Suddenly, he notices clumps of hair in his hands entering complete despair. Just when others awakened, his hair began to fall out non-stop. So in his early 20s, he gained baldness. He sought clinics, but the doctor advised him to just give up. Hearing that, the hunter cries in despair. No solution. The scene goes back to the past, showing his good looks and talent. Back then, he shone but soon lost light. The result was stagnation, failing miserably in the test. Now he lives sprawled on the couch watching TV amidst the mess. He hears on TV about a curious episode in a famous doctor's research. The doctor reveals he accidentally spilled rare liquid metal on his head. To everyone's surprise, his hair grew back even though he was nearly 90. Nam Ki-suk stands up immediately thinking this is a lie. But the reporter asks about the cure for baldness, and the doctor's answer shocks him. The scientist says he'll use the metal to create a mechanical life form for humanity. Outraged, Kiziak yells at the TV, saying the cure would be for humanity. Days pass. He sees news on his phone that puts him on alert. The mechanical creature escaped to the demon realm. Determined, he yells he'll find it and pour the metal on his head. The scene changes. Kaisuk appears face in the dirt, understanding nothing. Little Kim Nari celebrates her victory. He didn't land a hit. Desperate, he begs Da-woon not to give up on him, promising he'll improve. Da-woon finishes a closet thanking Gu for showing the wood. From afar, Kiziak watches, thinking that guy has courage. He reflects that despite getting beaten, something was different. Even aching, he felt liberated using his flames again, thinking maybe it's because he took off the wig. He asks Nari to fight again. Ku comments his control isn't bad, but Dawon reminds Nari is special. Kaesok advances yelling he will win. The girl calls him to combat. He launches his fire attack full force, but the girl stops it in the air. To his surprise, her power turns flames into water. Liquefaction. Taking advantage of the distraction, the girl jumps and hits him with a powerful blow. The impact throws him against the mountain, opening a crater. Nari is super happy and thanks the uncle, saying now she's no longer afraid of fire. Fallen in the hole, he thinks this is the limit of a rank B, but he refuses to stop. A washed-up hunter wouldn't get another chance. The man gets up for another round. He notices his nose started bleeding. Daewon asks how many days he's been there. He answers 9. Daewon advises him to return. Demonic energy can be fatal for his rank, but he says Kiseok has rank a potential, shocking the hunter. Kiseok explains he's failed for 6 years and is a lost cause. Daewon disagrees. He tells the hunter not to give up, leaving the man emotional. Grateful, he promises to do his best and asks Daewon to watch him. Portal opens. A hunter appears asking if they need anything. Before going, Kiseok says goodbye and asks if they saw his wig. Daewon answers he didn't see anything. Kiseok leaves wondering where he left it. The portal closes. Nari asks Daewon if this was a good idea. She fears betrayal. Daewon reminds her she can read memories. The girl confirms his desire to get stronger is genuine. Smiling, Daewon thinks it'll be fun to follow that guy's journey. The scene changes. Nari asks how he understands Gu, noting the place is dark. He answers he should make a window, preparing to cut wood. With a single movement, he uses his ability to create a perfect opening. Nari loves the new window. Everything is bright. Daewon suggests they need light for the night. The girl asks how. He explains there's a glowing stone that emits its own light. Gu wants to know where to find it. Daewon says there's plenty in the dangerous volcanic region. With a sad face, Gu reveals that's his homeland, confusing Nari. The girl grabs Gu and asks what Dune is talking about. Dune says his voice sounds strange. He's upset. He decides to go alone to spare them worry, but Nari insists on going too. She yells she's no longer afraid of fire and wants to go. Seeing her determination, Gu also decides and warns he has things to resolve there. Daewon agrees and promises to create protective gear for them. Meanwhile, in the field, the mandrakes find Kiseok's wig and begin beating it. The scene takes us to an immense, dangerous volcanic region full of smoke. There, a shadowy creature cries amidst desolation. We arrive at the volcanic zone, a place most avoided by hunters. Volcanic ash rips your skin, and toxic gas kills instantly. The place is almost a mystery, leaving Gu terrified, but Nari is having fun amidst the danger, playing with fire calmly. Gu finds it weird. Daewon explains she's fine, but he is a Chimera hunter. He says he was once a monster, but returned in a human body. Daewon asks if Gu is comfortable. The creature replies it's not bad. He likes having someone to talk to and thinks they aren't bad people. Nari arrives wanting to talk to Gu. Daewon explains he was curious about him. She gets excited saying she's also native, but Gu calls her a cheeky brat. Daewon warns the stones are near where lava spurts hardest. They continue. Nari is surprised to see the crater size. The little one runs ahead, excitedly yelling they finally reached the summit. There he finds the luminous stones but notices a giant fire toad. Looking closer, Daewon notices the toad seems to be crying. Suddenly, Nari points and yells there's another toad right in front. Daewon explains the female, carrying eggs, died. Gu adds that since she died, all the eggs will die because the crater temperature is too high. Nari feels sorry for the toad, sad about its partner, leaving Daewon thoughtful. He asks Kim Nari to wait and decides to approach. The hunter runs toward the toad. The girl yells asking where he's going. Without hesitating, he advances toward the grieving monster. Seeing him, the toad turns snarling. Gu yells for him to return immediately, but Daewon ignores the warning. The monster attacks with a fire blast, making Nari scream desperately. With a quick movement, he lifts his hand and activates a bright ability. The hunter simply dodges and touches the toad's head, which calms down. He asks the toad to stay still, and the beast faints. We show he used a paralysis poison. The effect will pass soon. Nari yells worried. Daewon answers everything is great. He explains he has fire toad cells, you can't save what died. so he decides to use his ability to save the eggs. When the male toad wakes up, it's shocked. Dawon warns he tied the eggs to be safe, but the toad still growls. The hunter is confused, not understanding what the beast is thinking. He then realizes the toad seems to be saying goodbye to its partner. With its claws, the monster touches its beloved one last time before moving suddenly. The toad gives a giant jump. Nari yells surprised that it flew. It lands hard near Nari, looking directly at her with gratitude. The girl gets emotional. With one last jump, the fire toad leaves following its path alone. Nari says it looked to thank them. Dwon agrees he also felt that. Situation resolved, he finally grabs one of the luminous stones. Stone in hand, little Nari celebrates happily. Nari thinks the stones are pretty. Dwon warns her to be careful not to get hurt. He begins storing stones inside his backpack. He notices Gu struggling and asks if everything is okay. The beast just complains. Dwon says he doesn't need to help, and he even brought a gift for his friends. Totally embarrassed, Gu denies, instantly saying monsters don't have friends. Dawon thinks it's cute he misses his kind. Gu says he only regrets not saying goodbye. The hunter asks why he left the pack. In a flashback, we see Gu in original form enjoying learning, but he couldn't communicate. In the land of one-eyed monkeys, he felt empty for being different. And for being the strange two-eyed one, he ended up leaving to live alone. Gu thinks no one missed him while Nari tries to dig something up with force. Gu slips and drops a stone. Nari hears a crack sound. She looks at the ground and warns she found a monster egg buried there. Dawon analyzes the egg and realizes it's cracked, probably by the fallen stone. Dawon explains the beast needs to get out alone to grow strong, leaving Nari worried. The girl insists on taking the egg, but Gu disagrees. They don't know what will be born. But then Dawon thinks he has a perfect place to serve as a nest and gets curious. Without a choice, he decides to take it. Nari offers to carry it, all excited. Dawon reminds it was Gu's fault but worries Nari will get hurt. With a confident smile, the hunter guarantees everything will be fine. The scene cuts and they finally arrive home with Nari holding the egg carefully. Kiziak appears and asks Dawon where he's been. He offers to carry the things, but Dawon is hesitant. The hunter insists he's strong and grabs the backpack, but the backpack is too heavy. Then Dawon orders him to lift his head and asks what happened to his face. We see Gu's gift, a pack of ramen that ends up crushed by accident. Gu's old band finds the gift he left for them on the volcano floor. Confused, they tear open the package and start excitedly eating the raw noodles. A hunter approaches Nam Ki-suk and asks what happened to his face. Dawon comments that he didn't know Ki-suk got beat up. Ki-suk proudly says Nari always hits him. Seeing his leader's expression, he changes the subject and announces he's serving food. The scene shifts to Dawon using a knife to carve a glowing stone. Nari approaches curiously and asks what he's doing. He explains he's going to hang it from the ceiling because it will look nice. Nari praises him, saying he's very smart and explains things well. She also comments that he seems kind, remembering when he helped a monster. Smiling, the girl says he looks a lot like her father. Daewon is surprised and asks if her father from the Coco tribe is okay. The scene then shows us a beautiful sunset with pleasant weather. But Gu, lying on the sand, complains his body is almost melting. He can't stand the heat and falls asleep right there, snoring loudly. Suddenly, a giant shadow appears in front of him with two glowing red eyes. It was actually several small creatures jumping to surprise attack Gu. One little creature spins forward, using its special move to strike Gu. But the attack just hits his belly and the creature is thrown back. Gu turns around irritated and Nari asks why they were fighting. Nam Kiziak arrives announcing the wait is over, bringing a plate. He reveals the food, fried tofu onigiri made with care. The guy is proud. It's an easy recipe that always impresses. With everyone at the table, he invites them to eat, saying it turned out decent. But before they start, Dawon asks again what happened to his face. Kiziak gets embarrassed and clumsily starts inventing an excuse. He explains he went to the Hunters Association for a promotion exam. Dawon summarizes he got into a fight after being provoked for failing. Kiziak continues, saying he couldn't take the jokes about his hair falling out. Dawon points out he just shaved it and wasn't really bald. Outraged, Kiziak starts a speech explaining that hair loss is a mystery. Dawon asks when the exam is and he replies it's in 60 days. Dawon announces it's time for special training, making Kiziak very excited. He explains the guy's first task will be assuming dishwashing duty. Then, he orders the hunter to wash all the shining stones dirty with ash. Kisak complains, but Dawon says he can stay be rank if he wants. With that, he calls Nari to go fishing, leaving the poor guy behind with chores. The guy is speechless, just watching the two slowly walk away. But then he stares at the dirty dishes and realizes his leader must have a reason. He fills with determination. Everyone thought he was a hardworking genius. Nam Ki-suk takes pride in reaching B rank through hard work. We are shown he's a man who trusts his own perseverance to the end. He yells that he's coming with them and runs through the forest to catch up. Meanwhile, at the riverbank, Nari complains the fish aren't biting. She then notices all the fish are actually heading toward Kiziak. The guy screams in desperation. Aquatic monsters were his biggest weakness in combat. Dawon tells him to use his mana, but Kiziak says he can't do it. Seeing his friend's difficulty, Dawon grabs the glowing stones thinking of a plan. He hands one to Kiziak and asks him to hold the object. Suddenly, dark energy appears in the stones, scaring the hunter with its power. He shouts that it's demonic energy, and Dawon explains some stones have that. It is explained that this raw power needs to be expelled with refined mana first. Dawon touches his chest and advises that he already has mana. He just lacks control. The image shows mana channels opening all over the guy's body. He explains a path has opened, and Kiziak needs to use it now. The hunter looks at his hands, and Dawon tells him to channel mana through them. Kiziak concentrates again and tries to lift the stone using his power. He strains hard to control the energy, grinding his teeth with the effort. With a shout of victory, he finally manages to lift the stone high in the air. The guy realizes it was all training, and Dawon tells him to keep washing the dishes. Excited, Kaisuk accepts the task, saying he'll always make everything shine. The scene shifts to night, showing their camp under moonlight. Inside the makeshift cabin, everyone slept deeply, exhausted from the long day of training. Kiziak mumbled something while Dawon slept peacefully beside Nari. In his nest, Gu regretted sleeping early because now he wasn't tired. Suddenly, he opens his eyes and sees Nari sneaking through the darkness. He wonders where that girl was going so late at night. At the riverbank, Nari looked at the water with a sad expression. She regretted that her clothes got dirty, and it was the only outfit the mister had given her. Trying to cheer up, she says it will be clean after washing properly. Hidden, Dawon and Gu watched, and he realizes she didn't have other clothes. The girl finishes washing, celebrating that the stain finally came out. With a magical shine, she dries the clothes and is happy the job is perfect. Suddenly, Dawon appears, and Nari startled asks what he's doing there. He disguises it saying he was walking Gu, and the girl agrees saying she was walking too. Dawon approaches her and asks her to stand still for just an instant. Using a vine, he makes a belt and places a flower as a small decoration. Nari is enchanted by the gift and says it looks very beautiful. She comments the flower looks like his and that it was her favorite. Out of nowhere, a very loud scream comes from the forest, scaring them. Nari is terrified and asks what that noise was, getting very scared. Dawon just gives a little smile as if he already knew exactly what was happening. He tries to calm Nari, saying it was just a steel grasshopper, a B-rank monster. Walking back, he asks if she needs anything, like clothes or shoes, but Nari replies she already likes the outfit he gave her very much. The scene shifts, we see Dawon went to a human city to help anyway. He emerges from a portal, thinking it wasn't right for her to only have one outfit. The guy thinks it would be better to bring her, but her trauma was still too great. He finds it funny using a portal stone just for this and looks for a shop. He wonders if the shop closed, but then a voice calls him suddenly. A dirty boy offers help, saying he'll take him to a good shop for 10,000. The boy analyzes Daewon and thinks he's a loaded newbie hunter. He asks if the guy has cash for clothes and tells him to follow ahead. The boy says he'll make an exception, and Daewon awkwardly thanks him. They introduce themselves as Oh Bong-soo and Cheon Daewon. Bong-soo comments about the police. He asks if Daewon awakened recently, surprising him. Bong-soo explains he came out of the portal with nothing and must have been robbed. Daewon tries to cheer the boy up, saying he knows a lot for his age. Bong-soo gets angry and shouts he's already 17. He's just short because he didn't eat. He points at some guys and warns Daewon to avoid District 13 if he can. It's explained the space gang dominates the place and the police already gave up. Hearing that, Daewon wonders if the orphanage where he lived still exists there. The scene shifts to a shop sign with a buy one get one free promotion. Inside, the owner lamented trying to run a business in the slums. She looked at the empty shop and seriously considered changing professions to survive. Bong Su enters shouting for the boss, irritating her. Meanwhile, Daewon looked at everything, and Bong Su informs her he's a hunter. The woman calls Bong Su, asking him to come to the corner. She grabs him tightly and asks if he wants to bankrupt her by bringing poor hunters. The lady points to Do-woon in the children's section, and Bong Su tries to say he's handsome. She reminds him she only helped because they looked like her late younger brother. Bong Su retorts, and in the middle of the fight, Daewon interrupts to speak. Daewon says he wants to buy clothes and shows them a check with all the money he had. They are shocked to see the check was for 10 million won, and he thought it was little. The shop owner changes her attitude instantly, clasping her hands excitedly at the cash. Suddenly, she starts treating Do-woon like a king, confusing him. She asks what he's looking for, and he requests clothes for a little girl and himself. The lady gets super happy and announces the house specialty is children's clothing. She shows a yellow dress, explaining lace's essential fashion. Then she grabs a sporty set, perfect for active kids. Finally, a pink dress appears, and she says this color is mandatory. The result of all this was a receipt that seemed endless. The shop owner is exhausted but happy with a sold-out sign amidst the clothes. She says he bought over 100 items, but Daewon says he'll carry everything. He hands a bag and payment to Bong Su, who is shocked by the tip. The two leave the shop carrying purchases, and Do-woon asks for one last favor. Bong Su takes him to an inn, saying the place was clean and safe. Do-woon asks the boy to wait a moment and enters the inn carrying the sack. Seeing that, Bong Su gets suspicious, feeling something was wrong there. He looks at the money and clothes and thinks about fleeing out of fear of kidnapping. But then he remembers Boss Park and considers Daewon might be a good person. Daewon comes out of the inn and confirms the place seemed very good. He hands a key to the boy for room number 303. The guy explains he paid a year's rent and meals, leaving Bong Su in shock. He says goodbye to leave, but the boy asks if he's going to be kidnapped now. Daewon doesn't understand the question, and Bong Su wants to know his real goal. He says they barely know each other, so he doesn't get so much kindness at once. Daewon just says it reminds him of the past and says goodbye, entering the portal. Back at camp, Nari asks where he went, and he says he brought a gift. The girl gets super excited, and Gu is amazed by the amount of new clothes. Nari grabs a yellow dress and celebrates that the clothes were all very pretty. Dwon tells her to try on whatever she likes, and the little girl runs into the cabin. Inside, the mysterious egg Gu was hatching suddenly starts shaking. While folding clothes, Dwon thought it was very calming for some reason. Suddenly, Gu calls for him, asking him to check on little Nari. The girl appears in a new dress, saying she thought that model was very pretty. Dwon asks if it's her favorite, but Nari says she wants to try others. She starts having fun trying everything on, even pretending to be a ghost. Seeing the girl's excitement, Dwon smiles and comments she really is very cute. After a while, she finally stomps her foot and announces she's decided on her new look. She emerges in a chick hoodie yelling she loved it because it looks like Gu. The protagonist praises the choice and asks if she wants to fold clothes. She accepts immediately, seeing the pile of stuff. Gu worries and asks where they'll keep so many clothes. Daewon reveals his plan to expand the house to build a closet just for her. He says not to worry because he already arranged someone to cut the necessary wood. A gigantic explosion happens in the forest, right where he pointed. Nam Ki-sok emerges amidst the dust, announcing he's ready for training. He bows and says he took good care of the equipment, leaving Daewon confused. He explains the leather tunic is the training uniform soaked in deadly poison. Kiziak gets super psyched thinking this is the secret to getting stronger. Without thinking twice, Daewon simply tells him to wear the outfit, shocking that the protagonist orders him to put it on and go cut wood, making Ki-sok panic totally. Suddenly, a puppy barks desperately, warning something is wrong with the egg. They all run to look and see the giant egg shaking with lava cracks appearing. Daewon comments the movements are violent and it seems ready to hatch. Ki-sok hides terrified, asking if a disaster rank monster will come out. But Nari says that's impossible, and a very cute monster will surely be born. Instantly, the egg truly starts to break, and the two scream in fright. From inside, a sharp claw and scale-covered tail emerge tearing the shell. The creature seemed to have a furious tongue, and everything indicated a dangerous monster. But to everyone's surprise, what comes out is a small super cute yellow serpent. Nari is enchanted by the little creature, while Kiziak doesn't understand what animal that is. The small monster jumps off the table, showing it was full of energy to burn. The bizarre creature then leaps in the air, shocking everyone with its chicken legs. It lands right on Kiziak's face, who is completely paralyzed. Desperate, he runs screaming and ends up destroying the wooden construction in the process. With goo on his head rushing him, Kiziak finally starts the work of carrying logs. He can barely breathe because of the poison, wondering how Dawon stood wearing it. Meanwhile, the protagonist stretches satisfied, thinking folding clothes was actually fun. He is interrupted by a yell warning the new creature was eating the bread. Nari holds the little animal and comments he's very obedient because he knows she saved him. She has the idea to call him Sasa since he looks like a snake. Sasa seems to like the name and runs through the field, leaving Nari behind. Dawon watches the two playing and comments Nari liked the new family member. He asks if it's a rare species, but Goo also says he's never seen one before. Goo warns that if the beast came from the volcanic zone, they need to watch the mandrakes. Dawon doesn't understand why, and the scene focuses on small plants sprouting nearby. It's explained monsters from their love plants, and Sasa attacks one without thinking. Goo continues explaining they like plants with demonic energy, and Sasa will eat the mandrakes. The creature runs toward the little plants to attack. It's told he might be their natural enemy, and the mandrakes prepare for a fight. Seeing the plants rising, Dawon realizes Goo's prediction was spot on. Nari gets worried and says she'll try to stop the fight, showing her kindness. But Dawon stops her, explaining that in the demon realm need to resolve hierarchy. He says to just watch for now since they are still young and not that dangerous. Sasa stares at the smallest mandrake, which is visibly scared of the predator. He charges with everything, aiming at his target that seemed the weakest. But another mandrake steps in front and uses its stick arms to defend. The beast manages to block the attack, and they use a formation to counterattack. As expected, the second mandrake takes the chance and attacks. It hits Sasa squarely with its stick, trying to return the enemy's blow. He defends with his tail and gives a little smile, but Goo warns it's early to celebrate. The third mandrake appears by surprise and hits Sasa from behind while he was distracted. The third mandrake lands a blow with full force, showing it wasn't playing around. With the team attack, the little plants manage to corner Sasa, who has nowhere to run. Instead of fighting, the beast starts crying, shocked at being hit for the first time. Nari runs to calm the situation, and Dawon comments the mandrakes were victorious today. Kai-suk says the fight was strangely epic, and Goo agrees it was a good show. With the fight over, Goo orders Kiziak back to work, who wonders if Goo is human. The scene shifts completely, taking us to a vast ocean under a clear sky. Suddenly, a huge creature flies out of the water, rising toward the sun rapidly. A being half man, half dragon is revealed with imposing wings and a muscular body. He has a wild appearance and wears a thong necklace, seeming very powerful. Back in the present, the closet construction finally finishes with wooden logs well fitted. During the process, Kiziuk tried his hardest while Goo shouted for him to go faster. Nari and Sasa also helped, applying green sap to the wood and having fun with the task. Meanwhile, Dawon organized their books, arranging everything on a new shelf. When the heavy work finally ended, the old leather tunic was left aside on the ground. Kiziak shouts in relief, celebrating the end of that infernal training. He cries from exhaustion. It was 2 whole days of hard work without sleeping. Even so, he did everything as ordered but still felt insecure about the result. Dawon appears and praises him, saying the construction turned out much better than expected. Suddenly, Nari comments the new closet smells nice like flowers. They all feel a strange calm in the air and realize the smell is lavender. The protagonist explains Goo chose aromatic woods to keep the clothes always smelling good. The mandrakes also seemed very relaxed, enjoying the calming aroma that took over the place. Even Sasa nestles in a corner and sleeps, showing he also liked the smell very much. Dawon asks about the name Sasa, and Nari says it was Kiziak's idea. Dawon asks about the name Sasa, but says they can change it if they have a better one. Kiziak suggests Snake Dick, leaving the protagonist totally speechless. Nari gets excited and suggests Piaki, but Dawon thinks it sounds too much like Goo. Goo interrupts with a super cultured phrase, talking about footprints in a drawer. The protagonist remembers he had a name, and Goo reveals he is called Rocky Mountain Hoof. Seeing the options were terrible, everyone agrees Sasa is the best choice. Gu asks what the plan is now that the house is bigger, making the gang curious. With a smile, Daewon says things are different now that there's a family. He suggests building a strong fence so no one invades when he's not around. Kaisuk doubts anyone would go there, but the protagonist warns an S-rank monster might appear. For this, Daewon says they need dense material with demonic energy from the coastal area. He explains that deep in the sea, there is yellow quartz harder than any other ore. The protagonist already imagines the fence with glowing stones creating a campsite vibe at night. Without wasting time, he tells everyone to get ready because they are going to the coastal area right now. Kaisuk panics totally. That place is known for being extremely dangerous. Seeing a chance to escape, Kaisuk says he needs to release his energy and can't go. He warns Daewon to be careful. The coastal area is forbidden for anyone below a rank. Most importantly, 2 disaster-level monsters dominate that entire region. Kaisuk finds it strange he doesn't know, and explains they are Chimera hunters who fled a lab. He continues saying they have bird heads, but their bodies remain human. The scene focuses back on the winged creature flying majestically through the skies of that place. Suddenly, a group of hunters spots the monster and shouts to prepare the tracker immediately. One of them creates a ring of golden energy, preparing to mark the target that appeared. He launches the ring with all his might, and it flies like a missile toward the creature. The attack hits squarely, exploding in a bright light showing it was a direct hit. But the beast just flees, making the hunter think rumors of it being strong were false. The group leader orders them to wait. The tracker worked, they will follow the 2. Elsewhere, a man questions how they are still alive with human bodies after 60 years. A superior replies they are a failure, and today they will finally erase that mistake. But one subordinate watching the area calls the team leader with a look of astonishment. Through binoculars, the lookout notices the creature wasn't fleeing but turning around. He panics seeing the beast coming full speed toward them to attack. Desperate, the leader yells for everyone to raise a defensive barrier right now. The creature descends with absurd speed, preparing a direct blow against the barrier. But the defense shatters into 1,000 pieces, throwing the leader far with violent impact. Dust rises, and everyone is shocked because the barrier was destroyed with a single attack. The monster prepares in the air again, leaving the hunters knowing what it would do. That's when the other monster appears, and the 2 start fighting brutally. Fallen on the ground, the leader yells, understanding nothing, ordering them to stop the madness. But the scene reveals little Nari punching the monster and screaming for him to stop mistreating the weak. The creature gets confused by the attack and wonders if the little girl was also a chimera. We then see Daewon and Nari staring down the 2 giant monsters without showing fear. Nari accuses the Birdman of bullying, but the protagonist thinks the situation is the opposite. A hunter points a device at Daewon and warns there's a mechanical creature there. The protagonist remembers the tracker on Nari and realizes this will be a problem. Our protagonist thinks it's unbelievable to meet exactly this guy again. He walks toward the Birdman and asks if he doesn't remember him anymore. Daewon says they were roommates, leaving the creature completely shocked by the revelation. He continues saying he didn't think he was still alive, and the monster begins to recognize him. Seeing the scene, one hunter warns the guy is suspicious and they better retreat. But Daewon realizes it will be a problem if they simply go back now. He decides he needs clear the area, and the Birdman finally remembers everything. A flashback shows the smell he felt in the cell, which he never managed to forget. It's revealed the 2 were guinea pigs, and only they would know that specific smell. The creature calls him number 17, showing they have known each other for a long time. The story takes us to 66 years ago in a forest near TDA laboratory. Searchlights cut the night while someone shouts desperately to catch them. A little girl clings to her brother saying she's very cold right during the escape. He runs with wounded legs wondering if this was really the right decision. He considers if it wouldn't have been better to just leave the girl behind. The Birdman laments that she didn't transform completely because her wings are useless. She says his wings are warm, but he replies it's fine, just for her to run. He yells for Jia to hang on a bit longer. They are almost out of the forest. Suddenly, he stops startled finding someone who might be able to help them there. Number 17 appears in front of him, leaving the Birdman shocked by his appearance. The boy explains he heard in the lab that the other side effects were severe. He warns that even if he flees, a detonation spell will end him in 3 days. The Birdman gets irritated, saying he doesn't know what it's like living that way. The scene goes back to a flashback where his sister begs them to flee from there. Crying a lot, she says she just wanted to live like before, even for a day. The Birdman reflects if what matters is how long you live while hugging his sister, or if what matters is how you live because he just wanted to be free for a single day. Then he fills with courage and challenges number 17, telling him to stop stalling and fight. The boy just stares in silence with a very serious expression. Suddenly, number 17 surprises everyone by opening a giant portal right behind him. The Birdman is shocked and asks how he got a portal stone like that. The boy explains that in the demon realm, either his human cells die or the monster ones awaken. He says if the guy really wants to be free, this is the best chance to live as a monster. Also, the lab's detonation spell wouldn't work there, but he wonders if a human would survive. Theoretically, it would be possible if he accumulated mana to protect his body from demonic energy. The Birdman distrusts the help, but seeing guards arriving decides he's going. But the boy interrupts, reminding they were roommates for 4 years without knowing names. He introduces himself as Yubame and asks his cellmate's name. With a glimmer of hope, he extends his hand and reveals his name is Cheon Daewon. The scene cuts to the present where Daewon stares at 2 hunters and asks what his name is. The squad leader is totally confused, saying he doesn't even know why he came here. Daewon opens the portal and orders everyone to forget what they saw, making Gu curious about the trick. It's explained he has cells that erase others' memories, and a lot happened. He turns to the Birdman and calls him Yubium, who is surprised he remembers. Little Nari approaches and pulls Daewon's shirt, calling him Mr. She asks if he and Uncle Sparrow are friends, and Daewon confirms, confusing Yubame. In a cute moment, the girl says her tribe and the Sparrow tribe are allies. Yubame understands nothing of the conversation, and Nari apologizes for thinking he was bad. But then hunger strikes, and she asks for food, making Yubame wonder if she's Daewon's daughter. The scene shifts to a giant house on the beach that looks like a bird's nest. Daewon praises the construction, saying he did a great job with the giant nest. With that, he offers a bowl of food, telling them to try what he prepared. It was giant grilled shellfish with plants from the demon realm that seemed like butter. Little Gu wastes no time and prepares to taste the mysterious delicacy. He is shocked by the flavor, feeling intense freshness as if he swallowed the ocean. Nari is amazed by the food, feeling the shellfish dance with every bite she took. Daewon tries it and realizes the red moss makes everything better, almost like a seasoning. Yubium is content they like the meal but ask them to eat slowly. Suddenly, panic overtakes the Birdman whose eyes widen, startled by something. Daewon notices his friend's despair, who starts trembling, unable to say a word. Turns out Nari was hitting him with a knife, screaming she wanted more food. With sparkling eyes, she asks if he would make more if she got the shellfish herself. She runs to the beach with Gu and Salsa, saying she'll get 10. Yubium comments how incredible it is that Dune came back life due to immortal cells. Daewon asks if he still thinks about revenge on TDA Lab for everything. He replies sometimes yes, but his life isn't that bad, so he'll think calmly. Then he returns the question, reminding that detonation spells are still in their bodies. Daewon gets worried, asking why his head hasn't returned to normal yet. With a serene look, the Birdman explains he can change back but won't. He says Jia's face changed and she would feel bad if he were the only normal one. Daewon stares seriously and asks one last question to confirm if he already knows the truth. He reveals his friend has at most a month to live, and the Birdman confirms he realized. Yubium begins to remember, saying it was quite hard when he arrived in that place. He explains he gathered mana to survive until balancing it with demonic energy. Because of this, he and his sister lived in peace for a good while meditating together. But one day, Jia's mana hole tangled and her demonic energy turned violent. Attempting to help, he forced it open and ended up damaging his own mana core. He says Jia eats poisonous fruits to sleep, trying to delay the evil energy. Daewon reveals that Mandrake can cure his mana core quickly. The scene shifts to a dark cave where a small creature hides in the shadows. Suddenly, Jia starts screaming in pain, feeling her body transform. She writhes in agony as red evil energy dominates her completely. Yubam can't believe it and asks Daewon if the two can really survive. He explains he studied pharmacology in the lab and just needs mandrake water. We are shown the mandrake, a plant monster that screams a lot when plucked. Despite their roots looking useless, they hide great secret power. They absorb demonic energy and become a source of vitality, perfect for curing mana cores. Smiling, Dawon says creating them was a good idea and he'll go get some. But Yubium reminds him he needs an alchemist and can't go to the human world since the curse is active. Dawon says he'll leave the kids with him and Yubium worries about no money. The protagonist makes a huge backpack appear, making the Birdman very curious. He says he filled the backpack with hunter stuff and that should be enough. With everything ready, Dawon says goodbye and with smile says he's going. The scene cuts to him walking in a city and someone confirms what he's looking for. Zobong-su, now his guide, asking if he wants a good alchemist. The boy says to trust him. They opened an alchemy association branch in the slums. Daewon asks why he wears weights on his arms. The boy says it's for stamina. He reveals his dream is to become strong like Daewon, who is slightly surprised. The boy says he admires him for entering the demon realm with just his body. After walking more, Bang-soo excitedly announces they finally arrive. He says a new manager arrived, a Mr. Kim rumored to be very skilled. Daewon looks aside and seems to notice something approaching on the street. The guide points and warns the manager is there, looking very worried on the phone. He explains the man is getting another call from a loan shark, which is common there. It's told he worked at the Golden City branch, but was demoted to here. Daewon thinks he must have done something wrong, but Bong-soo denies that story. He says in Golden City, one of his bosses embezzled subsidy money. The boy remembers it was director and a guy famous for stealing others' merit. When manager Kim reported the scheme, he was labeled problematic and expelled. Back in the present, Bong-soo greets him, and the manager recognizes him immediately. He introduces Daewon, saying his friend is looking for a good alchemist. Daewon thinks high-level alchemists usually aren't found there. The manager is happy, thinking Bong-soo is a good person and neighbor. Bong-soo says goodbye to Train, and the manager invites Daewon in. Inside, an employee complains because only low-rank hunters show up there. He had given up on promotion when suddenly the room door opens. The manager enters with Daewon, and the assistant stands to greet him. But Daewon cuts him off saying he seems like an A+-rank alchemist who can help. The manager doubts the story, saying he doesn't have material for that in the slums. Daewon asks if this would serve, leaving the manager in a state of shock. It was very dense demonic energy, without doubt mandrake roots. Both are impressed. They never saw roots so fresh and in perfect condition. Daewon says he'll pay with coastal region items and asks for valuation. From his backpack come black pearls and rare corals, leaving the manager gaping. He gets emotional. Even headquarters hasn't seen S-rank black pearls. To make it worse, the giant demon realm shellfish was still alive and attacked the assistant. To top it off, he shows red moss, a super rare ingredient for high-level potions. Daewon asks if that covers costs, but the manager says it's worth more than an entire building. He warns he'll need the lab's valuation device for such valuable items. While the assistant leaves, Daewon notices something and gets suspicious of the situation. He points to a jar, but the manager explains that Mandrake has been dead for 10 years. The man says he kept it for research interest, but Daewon asserts it's alive. The manager understands nothing while a blue aura starts coming from Daewon's hands. He shows that as soon as it receives some mana, the creature reacts instantly. The manager panics, realizing it was just in a coma from lack of energy. But right when he says it's impossible, 3 sinister figures appear at the door. It was director and the corrupt old boss with an evil smile and 2 assistants. He mocks the place, and the trembling manager asks what he was doing there. The director reveals he heard something extraordinary arrived in the slums. The manager despairs, thinking the assistant betrayed him because they arrived too fast. But the villain brags, saying he has excellent subordinates who are twin ability users. The director turns to him and asks if he brought those valuable items. He introduces himself as director and invites him to Golden City with a promise. Daewon gets irritated. He was getting along fine with manager Kim until now. The director tries to convince him with a contract, but Daewon changes the subject, noticing a mole. He asks what the director's relation is to someone named Anboktiak, surprising the man. With loud laughter, the director reveals that man was his grandfather. Daewon thinks with contempt that the genetics of that family were rotten indeed. The scene shifts to a flashback where a man mocks a little monster looking for its mother. With a whip in hand, he threatens to open a gate and throw the boy into the demon realm. The man yells for him to go beg his parents to save his useless life. Back in the present, a blue aura explodes from Daewon, throwing the director far with force. The director falls on the ground understanding nothing, and Dawon accuses him of being like his grandfather. He says the guy only knows how to crush others with power and take what he wants by force. With a threatening look, he asks to answer carefully if TDA Laboratory still exists. On the floor, and Jiaijong gets confused and yells he never heard that name in his life. Daewon explains it was an illegal laboratory wherein Baektaek worked as senior researcher. Indignant, Jiaijong orders him not to insult the dead. His grandfather dedicated his life to research. A scene shows the grandfather receiving an award. He says the old man even won a peace prize. With a smirk, Daewon says after killing so many kids, he decided to repent publicly. He comments he thought the old man would live longer and asks if it was due to the fall from the window. And Jiaijong panics. He doesn't understand how he knows of an incident not made public. The scene shows the grandfather falling, and Daewon reveals he pushed him. In a flashback, we see small Daewon's silhouette in the broken window watching the fall. He explains the old man threatened to throw the kids in a portal, so he pushed him first. Daewon says he'll give him a chance to investigate his grandfather and TDA lab. It's told he found Baektaek's grandson, and his experiment started at 9. His monster transformation began at 20, and memories of that time are hazy. Back then, he lived in a world without civilization where survival was the only law. It's explained he only followed orders and instincts without reason or self-awareness. The scene cuts to him in the office thinking a lot of time passed since then. Manager Kim enters the room excitedly, thanking him for waiting. He hands 2 bottles of purified water, saying the ingredients were excellent. Daewon decides to help with payment and immediately proposes a personal contract with him. The proposal is simple. He'd get ingredients and the manager would just need to perform synthesis. The man is shocked by the offer, and Daewon reminds him he could buy a building with this. Seeing the manager cry, Daewon doesn't understand why, but the man explains he's from the slums. A flashback shows his parents taking a huge loan from dangerous loan sharks. He says even striving his whole life to pay debt, he never got anywhere. Back in the present, the manager cries a lot and asks how he could repay this kindness. Daewon calms him saying not to worry because he'll need his help in the future. The scene changes to the sky, and he decides to return home hoping everything is fine. But arriving, he sees the ground stained and realizes he made a big mistake. He stares at the Birdman's body thinking he should have predicted Jia would freak out. From inside his clothes, little Sasa asked her to control herself, but it's no use. The skull-masked creature just roars back, totally out of control and blinded by rage. In an instant, she attacks the Birdman, grabbing him tightly and throwing him. The poor guy is thrown violently against the ground, causing an impact that raises dust. Fallen in a small crater, he realizes it's too late to try anything. But then Gu appears worried, asking if his uncle is okay after that fall. Nari also screams, asking if it hurts much, while Gu scolds him for getting hurt. Even wounded, he promises himself he will definitely keep the promise made to Daewon. It's revealed he'll do this because Daewon already saved their lives once in the past. He fires several feathers like missiles toward the creature. Then he advances for a final attack and says goodbye, asking her to be happy in the next life. At the last instant, his blow causes a small core of red energy to exit her body. Suddenly, this core explodes into a giant sphere of light, catching everyone by surprise. Flying nearby, Daewon turns startled and wonders what that huge thing is. On top of a pink bubble, Daewon believes she must have passed out by now. Gu gets mad and yells she's his sister, but Daewon asks if he has a better way. Stammering, the Birdman changes the subject and asks if he managed the medicine. Daewon shows the 2 potions and orders him to give one to her because the other is his. The scene shifts to night with them around a campfire and empty bottles on the ground. Chia and Nari fell asleep while Gu eats something tranquilly. Suddenly, yellow eye opens in the dark showing someone finally woke up. It was just a false alarm. Nari continues sleeping and snoring heavily. Chia starts waking and touches her mask, wondering if this is a dream. She stays silent for an instant, observing where she is now. Near the fire, she sees the Birdman and Daewon, who notices immediately she woke up. Scared, she jumps up and yells, wanting to know who those 2 men are. Nari wakes sleepy and asks if Aunt Sparrow is up, confusing Jia. The girl is happy to see Jia well, who still wants to know who Daewon is. He ignores the question and orders her to check her mana hole, shocking her. She checks her chest and realizes the mana hole is normal, staying shocked. Her brother asks what happened and wants to know who those people are. He remembers she always talked about wanting to see him, leaving Jia in disbelief. A memory arises, and she finally wonders if that is number 17. She pokes her brother to confirm, and he answers yes. It's him without doubt. The Birdman reflects and says this time it was he who saved them again. Dawon breaks the mood asking if there's more red moss with zero empathy. Anyway, Jia lets it go and finally decides to remove her mask. With a sincere smile, she thanks him for saving all their lives. Suddenly, Nari turns and points to something in the water, asking what it is. The girl runs to the seashore shouting something is shining very brightly in the water. Ja explains it's a sea fairy, but Nari doesn't understand the name. Is told they are sea monsters, but earned the nickname for being pretty. The girl is amazed, and Jia says they return home when the sun rises. Hearing that, Dawon remembers if he follows fairies, he might find yellow quartz. Dawon asks how long until sunrise, and the Birdman replies probably soon. With a smirk, he says he'll go for a dip since it's been a while since he swam. The scene shifts to a room where a man in a lab coat wants to know a mechanical creature's whereabouts. A subordinate explains it's in the coastal area because low-rank hunters failed to catch it. He continues, saying even a rank hunters who went there returned with amnesia. A cell phone starts ringing on the desk. It's Executive Director and G.I. Zhang. On the other side, the director asks if he, by chance, knows a TDA research lab. The man denies, stating he never heard of such a lab. He defends himself saying his institute isn't that kind of place, stammering a bit. Alone in the room, he remembers Professor and Bakhtiak always told him to be an honest researcher. With a sinister smile, Han Mayong-do says he never forgot the master's lessons and hangs up. He gets thoughtful, wondering how an illegal lab's name came from that grandson's mouth. At that moment, someone knocks and he gives the order to enter. A researcher enters excitedly with a briefcase warning the director the plan worked. He approaches, and the researcher explains the liquid metal and mandrake combination work. Inside the briefcase, he reveals the small creature they created, the liquid metal mandrake. The director likes the result knowing mandrakes have great tracking power. The idea was mixing this with liquid metal has strong bonding capacity. Super excited, he orders triple the reward and to call elite hunters immediately. He swears he'll find his masterpiece, Little Nari, whatever the cost. The scene cuts to a beach where the Birdman stands with crossed arms looking at the sea. He comments the necklace is made of quartz and says the person who made it is weird. Near the campfire, Dawon invites them to visit his home too. He comments he has a good cook, but the Birdman finds it strange and asks if he lives in the demon realm. Dawon says the place is cool and asks why they can't go to the human world. He wants to know if the Birdman wants to return, making him thoughtful. A flashback shows he has no good memories, but sometimes wonders how things changed. Daewon reveals he might be able to get rid of the spell on his body, shocking him. He explains there's an alchemist, Manager Kim, very skilled in that area. The idea is to ask him to research spells, warning him to think about it without getting hopes up. The Birdman stays silent for a while thinking about the proposal. He asks why Dawon always helps them even without them having done anything in return. Watching the two siblings made him think if something really exists in this world, something more important than simply continuing to survive at any cost. He thought that by helping them, maybe he could finally find the answer to that question. The scene cuts to the next day on the beach and the Birdman warns something is rising. Suddenly, huge creature is pulled out of the water with absurd force. Ji yells for her big brother to grab what she's throwing. He grabs the rope and without understanding, wondering what it is. Then she orders him to pull with everything, but the guy complains it's too heavy. With the force, he drags through the sand leaving a huge trail. A giant net exits the water, and he's shocked to see it full of quartz. Gu is amazed by the absurd amount and asks if he mined at all. Meanwhile, Dawon and Nari leave the water, appearing to have had fun. He comments it was nice swimming, and the girl agrees saying she had fun too. A panel shows they swam in the deep sea with sea fairies. Nari is surprised by one fairy landing right on her head suddenly. It's explained their home looked like a palace, and Nari wants to go back. Egu asks how they'll take all that quartz to the forest area. Dwan replies he needs to think about it, but hears something and looks up. Suddenly, a giant colorful bird appears flying in the sky, catching his attention. He recognizes the creature and wonders why a parrot-beaked bird is flying alone. Nari thinks the parrot is pretty, but Jia warns it only looks nice from afar. It's explained they are huge and very violent, so nobody messes with them. Doon gives a smirk and says he needed a truck, and that's perfect. The scene cuts, showing some simple mandrakes scared on the ground. We see Nam Ki-suk meditating with blue mana aura around his body. He concentrates and feels his mana hole definitely got bigger than before. Smiling, he thinks becoming an rank hunter isn't a dream anymore. Then he wonders when his master will return, but something strange approaches. The small metal mandrake stares angrily, scaring the lad. Suddenly, a hand appears from nowhere and flicks the little beast's head hard. 3 guys in black appear. One kicks the creature and threatens to melt it now. The group leader looks forward and finally realizes someone is watching. They recognize Nam Ki-suk and start making fun of his baldness and clothes. The lad panics immediately. He knows very well who those guys are. A flashback shows they humiliated him in the past, and he doesn't understand what they're doing there. Desperate, Ki-suk sees mandrakes appearing in front of him, ready for a fight. The guys realize they are wild mandrakes and already think about their worth. The leader approaches slowly, trying to call the little animals to him. But Kiziak decides he needs to protect them. He knows his master likes them. The larger mandrake stomps the ground and lets out a loud scream of rage. Suddenly, blue energy explodes and throws the 3 bandits far with impact. Amidst the dust, they wonder what's happening and if it was an earthquake. Chia and her brother arrive, not understanding who those fallen guys are. The scene cuts to the giant parrot looking tired and sweating profusely. Flying on it, Nari complains the beast is slow, and Dawon thinks he went too hard. Nam Ki-suk panics totally, wondering why this is happening now. He spots 2 figures and recognizes immediately disaster-class monsters from the coastal zone. Then he remembers Big Brother Dawon and Nari went in that direction. Terrible fear strikes, and he thinks if something horrible happened to the 2 friends. He realizes in that case he might need to join those other hunters. But the Chimera grabs him by the head and asks if he's Cheon Dawon's cook. Kaisuk falls to the ground yelling in fright, not believing the monster could speak. He composes himself and awkwardly asks if by chance they know his big brother. The Birdman confirms Dawon is their friend, leaving Kiziak totally confused. He looks at the other hunters on the ground and realizes this is a great opportunity. With a malicious smile, he prepares to hand over the guys. He points and shouts they are thieves trying to steal Dawon's mandrake. The scene shifts, and 1 hour later, everything seems calm in the forest clearing. Out of nowhere, a huge explosion happens in the middle of the field, throwing dirt up. Dawon and Nari arrive flying, and he comments, "There's no place like home." The giant bird collapses, groaning with exhaustion, thinking the quartz was too heavy. Dawon pets it and tells it to rest since it worked hard. The 2 goose who hitchhiked end up rolling down the bird's back. One complains he's seasick from high flying, but suddenly notices something. He widens his eyes, seeing the 3 hunters tied to a tree nearby. Dawon approaches, thinking it very suspicious that 3 rank hunters tried to steal the mandrake. The Eagle Man prepares to tell Dawon what really happened there. His partner distracts Nari asking for a house tour, and the girl gets excited. While they walk away, he reveals the hunters were hired by Hanbit Institute to find Nari. Dawon remembers instantly that Hanbit is the lab where Kiziak got the tracker. It's explained they expected hunters, and Nari has a special tracker. But Dawon gets confused since they were in the coastal zone, and it makes no sense to be found. The monster shows a liquid metal beast in hand, explaining it's the culprit. Dawon understands they mixed mandrake with liquid metal to track Nari. The beast came to the forest but was attracted to their house, and now they know they won't give up on her. Dawon finds it irritating and thinks of a solution, but hears the mandrakes grumbling at him. He realizes the biggest is furious, demanding he return her relative. Then he offers the metal creature, but the mandrake keeps screaming and doesn't accept. He remembers he had another in his pocket and doesn't understand how she discovered. The Eagle Man asks where he got the other one, and Dawon explains he's keeping it for an alchemist. The scene goes back to the past, showing Manager Kim asking him to take the creature. The manager cries and begs him to take good care of it, with Dawon accepting the mission. Back in the present, the mandrakes quickly dig new holes to plant themselves. The 2 new ones stand with sad faces, seemingly not liking the place much, but then the brown mandrake buries itself, settling into its new corner. They shine with joy, and he sees they will adapt, then asks where Nam Kiziak is. Suddenly, desperate cry of Big Brother catches Dwon's attention from above. The bird woman appears flying carrying Kiziak, who yells relieved they returned. He hugs Dwon worried, but the protagonist only notices his horrible appearance. It's explained he was found being bitten by fish because he wanted to treat new friends well. Kiziak promises to make something delicious if they wait, but suddenly notices something strange. He turns and faces the giant blue bird lying nearby. He freaks out and screams, asking what the hell cockatoo is doing there in the middle. Dwon tells him to relax, saying he'll explain later. And first, they need to eat. Little Nari, very curious, wants to know the day's menu. The scene focuses on the metal mandrake seeming very sad planted alone in the dirt. Nari approaches the creature carefully, which keeps its head down. She touches its leaf with a shining finger and gives it a gentle smile. Suddenly, the bird men scream food is ready, seeming super excited. Kaisuk's special dish is revealed. Super fancy curry rice with kimchi. He is proud, even explaining he used simple market ingredients. But he cooked everything with care, stirring for an hour not to burn. Everyone sits at the table, and he waits expecting the food to be tasty. The bird woman is first to try bringing the spoon to her bone mask. The gang has an exaggerated reaction. So good Dwon thinks it looks like a comedy. Dwon is eating, but notices Nari is quiet and hasn't touched her food. He asks why she isn't eating, and the girl replies she has no appetite. She gets up to go sleep, and he realizes she's bad because of the Chimera. At the same time, the two new mandrakes remain very sad planted in the earth. One looks aside with a crying face, not cheering up about the new home. Meanwhile, the bird men praise the food, saying they feel more like pigs than birds. Dwon suggests building a fence to help digestion, and they agree instantly. But suddenly, he feels strange energy and realizes shocked a portal opened. Nari is being pulled inside and thinks if she stays, she'll put the mister in danger. So she decides to go, saying she needs to return where she belongs. Dwon runs toward her, screaming Kim Nari's name in pure despair. With tears in her eyes, she says goodbye, calling Daewon Mr. One last time. She is pulled into the portal, thinking if she stays, she'll endanger the mister. With that, she decides to return where she came from, accepting her fate. Crying, she says goodbye to the mister while he screams her name, totally desperate. But he reaches her and asks where she thinks she's going, reminding her home is there. The bird men watch shocked, commenting children disappear in a blink. He hugs her tightly and realizes he can't take his eyes off her for a second. The scene shifts, and now a delicious ramen plate with egg appears on the table. Little Nari eats noodles with gusto, seeming happier than before. She tells the mister it's tastier, and Kaisuk comments ramen is the best snack. The bird woman scolds her, warning she'll get beaten if she flees again. But the girl complains it's spicy, so Dwon offers her a drink. Kaisuk smiles, explaining his mom says that's best to cut the burn. He gets up to clean everything while the others decide to return to cutting quartz. On the table remain yogurt bottles that helped calm the spiciness. Afterward, alone with the Mr. Nari apologizes for making him worry. He says she did nothing wrong. The wrong ones are the bastards who created her. With a serious look, he sits at the table and decides to touch on a delicate subject. He asks about her friends, and Nari gets confused, not understanding. Dwon explains it's so not to hurt them when destroying Hanbit Lab. She starts describing friends, and he realizes must know where the lab is. The scene changes, showing Nam with a sinister smile approaching prisoners. The blonde hunter struggles and reminds Big Brother suppressed their mana. Then he takes the gag off the guy's mouth, who finally breathes relief. The desperate hunter tries a deal, offering to pay whatever he wants to leave. He says the cash buys even a house in Golden City, but Kaisuk says the deal needs balance. Laughing hard, he reveals a black card and says he doesn't fall for pocket change. The hunter panics, asking how he has that card, but Kaisuk ignores. Kaisuk is happy for revenge for what happened in the rank advancement exam. He remembers being called an idiot and says they are famous garbage. With hate, he asks which is the greater crime, failing a test or robbing the weak. Kaisuk shows a pill made of forgetfulness herb, saying it's strong enough. With an evil smile, he says he'll reset the guy's disgusting personality with that. He orders the hunter to open his mouth, but the poor guy screams no desperately. The next day, Nari runs happy with Gu, who complains caring for kids' tires. Dwon warns he's going to Hanbit Lab with Kaisuk, and Gu asking to care for everything. Kiziak arrives, warning Big Brother all preparations are ready. He has ear-to-ear smile, and Dwon notices the cook's good humor. He's meeting a rank alchemist and is excited about the trip. But Bird Woman suggests he use a disguise, and Kiziak doesn't understand why. She brings her hand to her face thinking of a quick solution. Removing the mask, she offers it because being recognized won't bring good. He takes the mask uncertain if it fits, and she jokes his head is big. Kaisuk gets mad at the comment but feels his heart race when she touches him. Blushing, he wonders why his heart is beating so fast suddenly. Seeing her laugh like that, he wonders if that is love at first sight. In reality, the woman is furious at partner yelling she'll destroy him. Kiziak kneels begging forgiveness, explaining he acts without thinking. He gets gallant asking what her ideal man type would be. Daewon watches the quarrel and even takes a feather from friend Monster. She is surprised by question, and brother notices she is taking it seriously. He explains she is like that, always feeling need to answer a question. So she starts thinking of the answer and says, first, the guy has to be flashy. Then she continues saying it would be cool if the person was also a good dancer. A colorful peacock appears, and Kiziak understands nothing, repeating the word dance. The penny drops when she says the more feathers, the better, and he realizes he has no chance. Suddenly, he catches fire, yelling he needs to find the alchemist right now. They open a giant return portal, and Kisuk is shocked by the size. Little Goo is first sucked into portal going ahead. They exit in middle of city and people scare seeing poisonous roca parrot. Someone realizes people are mounted on beast, ordering to call association immediately. Kiziak asks Big Brother why he brought the beast since people are freaking out. Already masked, he wants to know where they are going, but Daewon says he knows. Using bone mask, protagonist admires blue bird flying through blue sky too. So he decides he'll call the bird blue while Goo continues dying of fear. The scene changes to a lab where they report hunters returned with total amnesia. The man says Chimera Tracker was lost and director slams table in hatred. He's furious because without creature, he'll lose all investment already made. And he knows full well bosses behind everything won't let this go cheap. But one scientist says they found something in unconscious hunter's clothes. He shows a note that says, "See you soon," leaving the director totally shocked. The old man freaks out in rage, yelling to investigate who did the prank. But at that instant, the building window explodes in 1,000 pieces with unexpected arrival. Daewon realizes landing was unstable and he'll need to treat Blue's tail feather. Then he stands and stares at the room asking who director. The scene rewinds a bit, showing them flying on a giant bird over the city. Nam Ki-suk then asks if that's safe since Cheon Daewon was hanging off the side. He explains that Hanbit Laboratory isn't just any place, being quite famous in the media. The place became known for creating Kim Nari, which he considers a crime. But Oh Bong-soo says that Chaeyeon Daewon must have a plan, so they should trust him. Just then, Nam Ki-suk notices that the bird's tail feather looks a bit weird. Chaeyeon Daewon explains that it used to run from its own species because of that defect. Turns out he saved the bird, and that's why the creature obeys so well. It's explained that this species is obsessed with beautiful feathers, so they used to attack it. The bird remembers everything, and its expression changes to one of pure rage. The others in the flock always attacked its tail because it wasn't perfect. Nam Kiziak gets thoughtful as he understands well what the bird felt. He kneels down and speaks, saying he knows the pain of not being able to evolve. Then they finally spot their destination, a building in the middle of the mountain. Cheon Daewon smiles and orders the blue bird to head straight for the location. The giant bird obeys the order, screeching as it charges ahead full force. Then it dives at high speed, which leaves the gang pretty scared. Cheon Daewon warns everyone to hold on because the landing wouldn't be good at all. With that, they crash through the laboratory wall, causing gigantic destruction to the place. Inside, the scientists panic, thinking a war had just started. A researcher tries to look through the smoke, but ends up seeing something strange approaching. Suddenly, the huge bird appears in front of him, leaving the man in shock. He screams terrified, wondering why the hell there was a poisoned bird inside. Just then, golden webs are fired out of nowhere, trapping all the staff at once. Cheon Daewon steps on the floor, commenting that he managed to catch most of them with the trap. Oh Beong-soo asks why he didn't use the entrance, and he says the director is at the top. The scene cuts, and the scientists ask who he is. He reveals himself as Nari's guardian, but the men are confused as they don't even remember who this Kim Nari person is. Just then, Cheon Daewon notices demonic energy and sees that something is strange there. The scene changes to Gold City at the Hunters Association where someone prepares for the exam. Inside a fancy office, an older man warns that he will expel his grandson if he fails. But the youth, Lee Baiko, retorts that he's already a C-class hunter, which is quite fast for his age. Then he takes advantage of the visit to ask for an allowance, and the grandfather regrets having spoiled his grandson too much. The association president Lee Un-soo grumbles that he's already 84. Baiko takes the cue and suggests that maybe it's time for someone to take over his position. It's explained that the grandfather created the association to help protect the world, even if just a little. But nowadays, he laments that hunters only care about the money they make. Chimera research was created to protect them, not to send them to certain death. But to hire one of these hunters, you need to pay big money to the labs. Because of this, poorer regions end up totally exposed to danger. He understands that he can't blame the hunters since everyone just wants to survive. But he believes that a world where life is decided by money is wrong. And even so, everyone has their eye on his position just to strengthen their own schemes. He vents, saying that because he has a low rank, he was always a powerless president. Then he turns to his grandson and says that with Biko, who awakened young, the story is different. Suddenly, a man runs in and warns that advisor Kim is there interrupting the conversation. He shouts that poison birds appeared in the slums, leaving Beko quite surprised by the news. The president is shocked as there was no sign that a gate was going to appear there. Worried, he asks about the hunters, and the man says they already contacted the branch. But he completes it by saying that no hunter wants to go, which makes the president furious. Outraged, he slams the table and warns that he will go personally, ordering them to call the Chimera labs. Seeing his grandfather run out, Beko shouts and warns that he's going along to help. Back at the laboratory, Cheon Do-won realizes that there is a strange energy coming from one of the hostages. Just then, the man explodes in power and breaks the webs, which scares Abong-soo. A dark, sinister energy completely envelopes the scientist's body, revealing his form. After the smoke clears, all that remains of the man is a puddle of liquid metal on the floor. Nam Kiziak's jaw dropped, wondering if that guy was actually a chimera. The metal then starts to transform and the others yell that the director is a chimera. Cheon Do-noon just observes the scene, wiping a bit of dirt from his face. The chimera director then charges, screaming furiously because they destroyed his laboratory. He yells that he's gonna kill everyone there and fires a liquid metal attack in their direction. Cheon-doon faces the attack, finally confirming that that guy was the laboratory director. He dodges barely and notices the metal is just like Nari's, but it doesn't seem to have life. So he questions if the director experimented on his own body to become like that. Suddenly, Gu notices something different is going on with Cheon Do-won now. It's explained to us that he managed to create a mental link with Nam Ki-suk in that moment. With this, little Gu is shocked as he had no idea Daewon had this power. The scene cuts to a flashback showing a child on a surgery table all bloody. It's revealed that director and Ji Jong would do anything to surpass his grandfather's success. Back to the fight. The floor explodes with the force of the director's attack impact, but Cheon Daewon advances and asks if he kidnapped children to perform experiments. The director scoffs, saying the slum rats should thank him for the opportunity he gave. With that, Cheon Daewon crushes him against the floor with absurd force. Breaking the monster tries to liquefy, but its body doesn't obey, leaving him desperate. Then, Cheon Do-noon warns that he's gonna send him to reflect a little in the pain room. He pins him to the wall with a surreal amount of mana, shocking the director with his power. The villain screams in pain, begging him to stop while his entire body writhes. Then, his whole body is sucked in and compressed into a small sphere of light. The shining sphere falls to the floor, and Cheon Do-won kneels to observe it closely. Nam Ki-suk and Gu are terrified, screaming that a person just turned into a ball. With all the calm in the world, the protagonist picks up the small sphere on the floor. He stares at the other scientists and asks if they also want to turn into a little ball. We are told that everything started when Enbokdak stole his master's research. Cheon-doon reflects that he found nothing about ADD in the guy's memories, which is strange. The scene reveals that Nari's tracker was a simple program, so it just needed destroying. In the end, Nam Ki-suk and the Blue Bird were put in charge of cleaning up the place. Now all that remained was to find the legacy of the old director's illegal experiments. With one blow, he breaks the glass and enters the secret laboratory he found there. Inside, the scene is horrible with several chimera bodies and glass tanks. Gu gets outraged, saying the guy was trash for treating children like data. The little monster then asks what Cheon Do-woon is going to do now with all that. A flashback shows the scientists wanting to dissect him as he was the perfect experiment. They discussed it was more profitable to open him up right away instead of waiting for a body to appear. Back to the present, he touches one of the tanks and decides he's going to let everyone rest. But when he prepares to destroy everything, Gu notices something strange in one of the tubes. A small creature looking like a fox appears and says it smelled a familiar scent. Cheon Daewon is surprised as he didn't know the little animal could talk like Nari. He jokes with Gu saying the smell must be his since he showers every day. Then he asks if the creature knows mechanical beings and it gets astonished by the question. He advises that she is living well in the demon realm, making the little fox excited. The animal starts crying saying it waited for news of its best friend, Nari. Cheon Daewon asks if there's anyone else there and the little fox calls everyone to appear. With that, a tree creature and a little ant come out of hiding, very shy. Right after, a bunch of little animals that look like moles or cacti appear too. He then asks if it's just them, and the fox explains that the combat ones were sold. He gets relieved realizing that luckily, all the creatures are from the demonic realm. So he offers to take everyone to the demon realm, making the little animals very excited. The scene cuts showing the hand-bit laboratory exploding and catching fire from afar. From the top of a building, they realize the target was never the slums but the laboratory. Just then, Bako spots a poison bird flying in the middle of all that smoke. But to his surprise, he sees someone mounted on the giant bird up there. Nam Ki-suk advises that he evacuated the researchers as they knew nothing. He asks if they weren't supposed to give oblivion pills, but Cheon Do-woon says no. Nam Ki-suk gets confused, but the protagonist simply looks down and ignores him. From the ground, the association president asks if he knows who those people are. Then it's revealed they are the president and his grandson sent to investigate. Cheon Do-woon becomes thoughtful, thinking he's already heard the name Lee Woon-soo somewhere. Suddenly, memory clicks and he remembers exactly who it is. He then picks up the sphere where he trapped the director and gives a slight smirk. Then he jumps off the bird and throws the sphere down, leaving Nam Ki-suk terrified. The object descends at high speed, flying straight toward the association president. With a quick movement, President Lee Woon-soo grabs the shining sphere in the air. His grandson asks what that is, and the grandfather is shocked as he didn't expect to see this. He explains it's a sealing technique which can only be undone by someone stronger. Then a team arrives and reports there were no injuries, leaving the president thoughtful about the culprit. The soldier adds that the director was a chimera, according to witnesses at the scene, and that an invader saved everyone, which leaves the president totally stunned. He wonders shocked if that child could still be alive after so long. In the sky, Cheon Do-woon announces they are going back to the slums, and Gu gets excited. The protagonist laments that he won't be able to relax because the association will be on their tail. The scene shifts to the Alchemists Association where a man wakes up with a strange noise. He opens the room door, wondering who could be visiting at that hour. Looking down, he runs into Oh Bong-soo on the floor who greets him. Manager Kim then screams desperately, panicking with the unexpected visit in his room. He thinks it's a burglar while Cheon Do-woon complains that the boy was very clumsy. But Cheon Do-woon calms him down, and the manager recognizes him asking what he's doing there. Then he takes off the mask and announces with a smile that the manager is going with him to the demon realm. In the clearing, the Birdman teaches how to make a fence with quartz and shining stones. He first makes a hole in the stone to then fit the other piece that shines. Then he places the lamp on the table, and Narya's jaw dropped at the result. She thinks it's very beautiful, and the others agree the idea was brilliant. The girl already starts calculating how many they will need, but suddenly she notices something strange. Then a portal opens right nearby, and they immediately think the master has returned. Only out of the portal roll several chimeras all piled up and looking quite weak. Nari wonders if Do-woon sent them, finding them very weak looking. One of the little creatures runs past them, heading toward the fence they were assembling. With the confusion, Nari gets a bit scared, holding her pet, Sasa, firmly. But then Sasa jumps to the ground, preparing to face the newcomers head-on. He lets out a little noise trying to show who's boss to establish the local hierarchy. The little snake then gets close to a plant chimera, trying to intimidate the small being. But the plant beast simply ignores Sasa, walking straight past without even caring. The new creature seems shy, making a cute sound and having an innocent face. The small plant Chimera seems to have liked the garden since she is a little sprout. But little did she know, because in that garden, the atmosphere was about to get very tense. Suddenly, the ground shakes and dust rises as if something exploded there. And from the ground emerge the owners of the turf, some creatures that look like angry radishes. The scene changes and we see the group arriving home with Dawon saying, "Blue can rest." Manager Kim is jaw-dropped, not believing what his eyes were seeing. He yells that it's not possible that Dawon really built a house in the demon realm. But the shock turns to excitement as he realizes the value of that and starts analyzing everything. Then Dawon looks from afar at Nari, wondering if she still hasn't made peace. He then turns and tells Nam Ki-suk and Manager Kim to wait there without moving. The hunter approaches the others, showing a new item that will be very useful for him. Back to the beef, it's explained that the little sprout wants the garden, and that's why they are staring each other down. One of the radishes is furious with an angry face and absolutely no desire to make friends. But the sprout also doesn't yield, showing it's ready to fight for its place there. And to make matters worse, a giant ant appears preparing to enter the fight too. The ant's tail starts to shine, perhaps sensing its new friend was in danger. Just then, the sprout spins and hurls the ant with all its might in an unexpected move. It throws the creature in the direction of one of the radishes, who prepares for a powerful strike. But what he uses as a weapon is his own companion, who goes flying like a ball. The little radish doesn't even understand what happened, only sees the friend's fist coming at his face. And with a precise hit, he nails the ant squarely, showing bizarre teamwork. The little ant can't take the hit and ends up fainting on the floor, all dizzy from the impact. The radishes win the dispute, and it's clear their teamwork has improved a lot. After the welcome ceremony, the little sprout drinks water with its new friends from the garden. Far away, the small fox Chimera sniffs the ground looking for some familiar trace. Suddenly, stops and stares fixedly at a tree, sensing a smell she knows well. The little fox has no doubts, as that smell was unmistakable to her somehow. She then finds Nari hidden, referring to the girl as a mechanical creature. With eyes full of tears, Nari apologizes, saying she will wait for forgiveness. She stays there behind the tree, determined to wait however long it takes for her friend. In a flashback, two scientists argue. One of them angry about a test subject refusing battle. They talk about a robot that only gets beaten in fights and now refuses to obey. One of them explains that the problem is personality, as the creature was born with a kind nature. That's why the little robot lives sad, feeling like a useless fool while a shadow observes him. But the scientist gives a malicious smile, saying that if personality is the problem, just remodel it. The plan was to give the creature a roommate, someone weak who obeyed orders. With that, they present several small chimeras, so the robot creates a bond of friendship. And when they got close, the order was clear. Command the roommate to betray him. In an instant, the fox attacks the robot mercilessly, sinking its teeth in with great violence. We are explained then that there is no worse pain than being betrayed by a friend. Fallen on the floor, a voice says he understands now that there's no such thing as friends. And that next time, if he doesn't want to die, he'll have to kill all of them first. The robot's personality finally changes, and he attacks one of the scientists with pure fury. Other men try to grab the creature, who even so refuses to hurt his friends. He cries in despair because to not hurt who he loves, he doesn't know what to do. Without any other choice, he decides he just needs to leave that laboratory for good. The flashback ends and the robotic creature sees the fox's teardrops on the floor. Then he floats toward the friend, who stares from below with a surprised face. The little fox can't handle the emotion and starts crying, seeing who was really there in front of her. He hugs the friend tightly, shouting that he missed her a lot, leaving the fox confused. Clinging to the small chimera, he repeats that he missed them all really truly. And there, under the tree, he promises that he will never leave them alone again. Watching the scene, Dawon realizes this is the original Nari, but decides to pretend he didn't see. He is happy they made peace, while the others follow him through the forest. Far away, Nam Ki-suk and Manager Kim wait, because Daewon didn't want to scare Nari. The gang gets curious, wondering who the person in pajamas next to the hunter is. Daewon then introduces him as an alchemist who will remove their curses. Manager Kim introduces himself all awkward, saying that if it's not too much trouble, he asks the Birdman if he can pluck a few feathers, leaving the big guy in shock. Elsewhere, Oh Bong-soo tells Chief Park that a blue monster bird came out of the portal. They comment on the weather cooling down, and just then she hands him something on the table. There's a tray with roasted sweet potato, perfect for a cold day like that one. The boy takes the hot potato, blowing carefully not to burn his mouth before eating. He bites a piece and gets happy, feeling how warm and tasty it was. But then he asks if only he is gonna eat, and Chief Park says she already ate before. She notices he doesn't seem well, but he disguises it, saying it's just pain from training. With a serious face, she says his symptoms seem like a hunter's pre-awakening. The chief asks if he is 17, explaining the age matches the awakening. Bong-soo thinks the idea is funny, but she gets angry, shouting that the awakening doesn't choose anyone. He asks her not to get her hopes up, but suddenly she places a roll of money in his hand. The boy gets stunned, looking at all that money that appeared out of nowhere. She explains there is an association nearby, and he can go there to take the test. Looking at an old photo, she thinks you never know and that he might become a great hunter. With a smile on his face, Bong-soo thanks her sincerely for her help and trust. He thanks her and calls her ma'am, but Chief Park shouts furious that she is not a ma'am. Back at the clearing, the bird woman continues the work, building the yellow light fence. The small chimeras have fun with the light bar, playing as if it were a piano. One of the large quartz stones is driven forcefully into the ground, illuminating the forest. The eagle man works through the night, thinking they don't get tired because they are chimeras. But he sees Nam Ki-suk there and wonders why the guy hasn't left yet. The bald guy screams desperately that he isn't training and just wants to help on his own account. Daewon suggests finishing what they started, but is warned to wait for Manager Kim to concentrate. He asks if Ki-suk prefers to go home, but the youth gives a thumbs up, all excited. With the situation resolved, Daewon closes his eyes for an instant, thinking about what to do now. He turns to the chimeras and advises that if they want to live there, they need to help too. The eagle man reflects that it's good to have a function and wonders if Daewon is okay. The hunter walks with Nari, saying he will install the rest of the fence on the way. He asks if she made peace with the friends, and the girl freezes before agreeing. Nari then asks if he really went to the tribe, and he perceives her worry. Nari then decides to confess, saying she needs to tell him she is not from the coconut tribe, but he interrupts her, calling her name and advises that no one else will come looking for her. The hunter explains that he took care of everything, and while looking at the fence was thinking. He then suggests they themselves become the new coconut tribe, leaving her confused. With a smile on his face, he says the family grew, and that's why they need a name. With eyes full of tears, Nari repeats the tribe's name, very moved by the idea. She thanks the sir very much, and he says now they can go back because everyone is waiting. The girl runs ahead, shouting that she returned and that from now on, they are a tribe. Seeing her joy, the eagle man realizes the conversation between the two went very well. With the new fence shining, Nari thinks their house got even prettier now. Just then, she hugs the fox friend, asking angrily where she went without saying anything. Daewon thinks the scene is funny, but suddenly he perceives a presence approaching fast. And from up there, the monster bird blue dives with everything flying in the hunter's direction. The creature rubs against him affectionately, and Daewon understands he is just a youth in a big body. But then he notices something different, perceiving that Blue's tail looks totally new. Manager Kim approaches, explaining that Blue was faster and the treatment is already over. He tells that he used a bit of red moss which has a powerful cure and works better this way. Nam Ki-suk is jaw-dropped with the miracle as the feathers grew back quickly. Seeing everyone's excitement, he realizes that is his great chance to act. He gets close to Manager Kim and whispers, asking if he is interested in hair loss. With a very serious face, he reveals he has been developing a remedy for baldness for 10 years. The manager gets all happy and promises to give a gift since he understands his situation. With that, Kiziak bows all excited, saying that from now on, he will do anything. The manager then turns to the birdmen, saying he examined their feathers too. He explains the magic circle is ancient and very powerful. That's why it's difficult to break. But he says he might manage a solution. If he has a large quantity of mandrake fruit, Daewon asks if it's that red fruit, leaving the manager surprised that he knows it. He then confirms he already ate several and advises that the ones nearby will soon bear fruit. Manager Kim is shocked to see a mandrake garden, which he hadn't noticed before. It's explained that they condense pure energy, creating a fruit with incredible power. The manager warns there is a problem. If the fruit is taken by force, it turns into poison. Daewon then has the idea of putting some stones because they hide to bear fruit. The manager is jaw-dropped, wondering how he knows such valuable information. With a smile, Daewon says he just remembered because he has a connection with the mandrakes. The scene changes to a flashback where Subject 17 is sent on a survival mission. But for him, that was easy, like breathing fresh air while walking through the snow mountain. Suddenly, stops as he hears a strange noise coming from the middle of the trees nearby. He pushes the branches aside carefully, preparing to see what was making that sound. And in the snow, he finds mandrakes looking like they had been attacked by some mysterious creature. In the frozen forest, he finds a strange creature and decides to snatch it up. But the little guy proves feisty, resisting and throwing sparks in defense. Yet it was weak and panting on the verge of passing out. The hunter pauses, questioning his own intentions. He realizes he feels pity for the thing even knowing it's just a monster. He decides to help, transferring some mana to energize it. The creature gets sleepy from the boost and he considers keeping it for a few days. Later that night, the hunter trudges through the snow looking for shelter. He carries the little groaner in a box on his back. Luckily, he finds a cave and announces they'll sleep there to escape the cold. Inside, the curious creature sneaks out of the box, peeking at the hunter from behind a rock. He notices the little monster has recovered its energy, probably from the mana it ate. The hunter takes the chance to drink some water, quenching his own thirst. Suddenly, he realizes something. Looking aside with surprise, the little guy was thirsty too. He apologizes for not offering water sooner. He tosses some water to the critter who gets all excited and tells it to calm down. From the outside, it looked like the little monster was dancing with joy. But suddenly, it runs to the back of the cave, leaving the hunter confused. A brilliant blue light shines from back there, startling the young man with its intensity. The creature returns holding a fruit, making him wonder where it came from out of nowhere. The little monster offers him the fruit. He's suspicious, wondering if it's safe to eat. Remembering he's resistant to poisons, he decides to eat it just to be polite. The moment he tastes it, an explosion of sweet, refreshing flavor occurs. He feels his mana replenishing and wonders if the fruit has power. The hunter looks back at the critter, trying to understand what's happening inside it. The little thing starts trembling and glowing again, making a strained face. To his surprise, more fruits appear, showing the beast can create them. Production accelerates rapidly. Soon, he counts 5, then 6 new fruits emerging. The little monster offers all the fruits to him. He doesn't understand why he's getting so many. He realizes the beast is exhausted and wonders if this is its way of saying thanks. He thanks it for the gesture, but tells the little guy to stop as he's satisfied. Then, the little monster eats its own fruit, and he notices they have no seeds. A blue aura appears, and the hunter understands that the creature grows this way. He feels bad for taking the critter's mana and promises to replace it later. But suddenly, he's startled by something, looking down in confusion. The creature is curled up in his lap to sleep, ignoring the other safe spots. The hunter smiles, finding the beast interesting, thinking he won't be bored. Outside, huge monsters appear in the darkness, attracted by the firelight. They were after the creature's fruit as it held pure condensed energy. Realizing the danger, he grabs the little monster to move it out of the attack path. With his transformed arm, he stands up and promises to protect the creature. The fight begins outside. The hunter dodges an energy attack from a lizard. Next, he blocks a blow from a giant gorilla, showcasing his absurd strength. The scene shifts to the next day, where he's resting and talking calmly on the phone. With the happy little guy by his side, the hunter closes his eyes and gives a slight smile. Watching the sunrise, the hunter says it's finally time for him to go home. The little monster senses the farewell atmosphere, getting sad about the whole situation. He understands why he felt pity, remembering the image of the abandoned creature in the snow. It looked too much like his past self, and he knows the critter won't be safe. But he warns that he still needs to go. A curse on his body would kill him if he didn't return. He explains he can't take it, as it would become a lab rat just like him. To compensate, he creates a nest of threads in the cave to protect the place. And so the beast isn't attacked out there, he kneels to give it a little something. He ties a small item to the little monster's body, asking it to keep it. The creature gets all happy and shy, thanking him for the gift in its own way. But then he warns that he's leaving, and the critter's face instantly changes to despair. As he walks away, the creature screams and runs after him, trying to stop him from leaving. But it ends up tripping and falling, only managing to say goodbye by asking him to take care. In a flash, the hunter disappears, apologizing for not being able to protect it to the end. Alone again, the little monster can't handle the sadness and starts crying very loudly. The scene cuts showing Manager Kim and Nam Ki-suk crying while hugging over the story. Then Daewon explains that he had to go back to the mountain about 2 weeks later. But he tells them the cave had collapsed and nothing was left of the place. With a guilty face, he can only apologize for what happened to the beast. Gu consoles him, saying the silk thread might have protected the little monster. He then gets excited and decides they'll go back to the mountain, hoping the beast is okay. But upon arriving, they find a veritable army of little creatures in the snow. Leading everyone was his old friend, calling for him with an excited shout. Daewon smiles and decides to return to the mountain, hoping to find the little guy alive there. The scene changes, and he finds it impossible that the little creature survived alone in the cold. Manager Kim gets all excited saying Daewon must really love mandrakes. Then Daewon asks if he can give them some mana since they must be hungry. He asks the manager to be careful, but the man approaches and asks the plants to behave. Daewon explains that he learned something. Their true ability is different. They are like a mana vacuum cleaner sucking everything up with incredible will. The manager despairs as he feels his mana being drained at an absurd speed. They got used to the amount of energy Daewon always gives them. With that, the manager screams as he's sucked dry to the last drop, unable to react. He becomes pale and weak, losing his balance, having no strength left in his body. In the end, he faints on the ground, and Kiziak runs, yelling the manager's name. The alchemist's defeat was ugly. Not even the skeleton can revive the fallen man, but the mandrakes start vomiting, and Daewon realizes they are nauseous. The scene cuts to an office where a man warns that the Hanbit laboratory has been attacked. At the meeting, CEO Jessica complains that her investment turned to trash overnight. Then Deputy Chief Violet asks, quite seriously, how they are going to resolve all this loss. President Jiang Ki-bong looks nervous, warning that the association has opened an investigation. Another man comments on the risk of the story leaking to the press and sullying their name. But President Go-jong Kayak mocks them, saying they're afraid of an old man. Indignant, Ki-bong slams the table and shouts that he crossed the line with that comment. Jong Yuk asks the politician in the room if he happened to tell a lie. With a confident smile, politician Park Woo-young tells them not to worry about it. He says a strange guy appeared, but these things are normal in government. The politician then makes a money gesture saying he already has a new source of income. He shows a map revealing he discovered a mandrake home on a snowy mountain. The others are surprised but doubt anyone can climb to the mountain's peak. But the politician points to a lower spot and asks them to call all rank hunters. Confused, Jiaibong asks why not go to the top if the nest is up there. With an evil smile, he explains that a teleportation user without equal has appeared to help. The scene changes, and a boy arrives saying he came to measure his awakened powers. With a smile, he introduces himself to the attendant saying his name is Abong Su. Back at the mountain, the troop of hunters advances thinking the mission is a walk in the park. They wonder where the teleportation boy is as he's the key piece of the expedition. One of them is confused, having heard the boy was rank F and couldn't even cross the gate. A colleague explains that the expedition leader has the power to amplify abilities. He reveals the boy was kidnapped off the street and is now hypnotized to obey. Suddenly, the leader raises his hand and orders the vanguard to stop immediately. He analyzes the location and confirms that his plan can work from that distance. Then a marionette user puts his hand on the boy's shoulder and tells him to start. The boy's power begins to shine with a green aura enveloping his entire body. The whole group gets into position, anxious to see what that rare case could really do. With glowing eyes, he releases his ability at full force, suffering from the power. His energy shoots out, tearing through space and opening a path to the mountains. The portal appears right in front of the mandrakes, who are caught totally by surprise. The portal opens, and the hunters are thrown right into the middle of the mandrake nest. They are shocked by the distance, but the power worked perfectly despite the cost. From the effort, the boy faints, and the leader yells at the others standing still. Then he takes 2 spheres of light and announces that whoever gets there first takes the prize. He throws the spheres hard, and they transform into a large energy net in the air. The trap works, catching a bunch of mandrakes, and he celebrates the plan's success. He yells for the team to prepare quickly to capture all the creatures trapped there. But a different mandrake, one with a small mark, stands out among all the others. He gives a war cry, and with that, all the others join forces to fight as a pack. The hunters notice the beast giving orders and realize they are advancing against the net. One of them is frightened to see the little creatures are actually eating the trap, but the leader corrects him, saying they are absorbing the mana and the net will disappear soon. A brute advances with a hammer, calling the rank a hunter's pathetic. He shows off his strong arm, commenting that their mana absorption is really good. But he warns that he's all physical strength and attacks without using a drop of mana against them. Seeing the danger, the leader yells and the mandrakes flee desperately to save their skins. The little creature faces the threat with a determined look, even sweating a bit from nervousness. A brute calls it king and warns that he's only not crushing it because it's expensive. But a gorilla man attacks full force, yelling that he's going to beat the little guy up. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appears and defends against the blow, criticizing the enemy's ugly weapon. The impact of the defense is so strong, it throws the other hunters back with the pressure. As the dust settles, they wonder who that guy is, having never seen him before. Dawon stares everyone down while they think it's impossible for the mission information to have leaked. Tired of the noise, he releases a dark, terrifying aura that silences everyone. The pressure is so strong, it throws the hunters to the ground, making them scream in pain. Silence reigns again. The mandrake looks at its savior in disbelief. The little guy stands there trying to understand who this man that appeared out of nowhere is. From up high, the bird men find the movement strange, understanding so many hunters and mandrakes together. But then the masked woman notices someone specific amid the confusion, seeming to recognize him. The scene shifts to Dawon's mind, confirming he found the mandrake he was looking for. He's sure it's her, recognizing the silk thread he tied on her. In a quick flashback, he remembers when he was 15 and found the little creature in the snow. Dawon is happy to realize she remembered his mana after so long. The small mandrake jumps all excited toward its old friend. Carefully, the hunter catches her in the air, finally reuniting with the little one. She nestles in his arms, rubbing against him like a needy puppy. Suddenly, Dawon hears a strange noise, and his look changes instantly. He turns and sees dozens of mandrakes standing there, wondering if they are her friends. The small mandrake jumps out of his lap and pulls his shirt, getting his attention. With an angry look, she puts herself in front of him to protect him from the group. Then she turns to the crowd and, like the king of the pack, surprising Dawon. The little creature stands on tiptoes, trembling to appear bigger and more intimidating. Dawon smiles, thinking the mandrake is still expressive and hasn't changed a bit since the last time. Then the scene returns to the present, with him telling his friends he knew he would find her. The Chimera woman is surprised she's alive, and the Birdman confirms it's her by the thread. He asks if Dawon is going to take this one to the garden too, and the young man seems thoughtful. Dawon explains that if she already found a place, it won't be easy to convince her to leave. The conversation shifts to the hunters, and our protagonist says to just scare them away. But suddenly, his expression changes completely upon seeing something unexpected on the ground. It's the boy, Oh Bung-soo, fallen and unconscious in the snow, leaving Dawon in shock. He runs to help the boy while the chimeras wonder what he's doing there. Dawon explains it's the boy who helped him as a guide in the slums a while back, but he realizes the boy seems to have awakened and is in very bad shape. The bird woman analyzes the energy and says he's a newly awakened transference user. She shows a mark on his arm, warning it's a curse and he won't last 3 days. Worried, Dawon looks at the wounded boy, trying to understand what the hell happened to him. A dark, furious look takes over his face as he finally understands the situation. Dawon stares at the hunters, identifying each one's ability by the fallen boy's mana. He accuses the cowards of kidnapping Bong-soo because they didn't have the courage to climb the mountain. Absurd energy explodes from Dawon, making the hunter realize he can't fight him. The man panics and offers to catch some mandrakes trying to negotiate for his life. But the protagonist wants no conversation and lands a brutal blow on the group leader. With his dark mana, he attacks the entire team at once without any mercy. He then questions the other hunter, wanting to know what he thought when seeing a boy there. Dawon already knew the answer. They saw only an orphan easy to use and throw away. The hunters were just thinking about the money they'd make, acting by the law of the strongest. So he warns he's going to do the same to them, starting with a thorough beating. In the distance, the small mandrakes watch the fight, curious about what's going on. The scene changes with Dawon sitting next to Bong-soo, who now rests on a rock. With the small mandrake on his head, he gets thoughtful, remembering the young hunter. In a flashback, he recalls the boy training hard to improve his physical stamina. Bong-soo used to say he wanted to get strong like him, surprising Dawon a bit at the time. In the flashback, Bong-soo said Do-woon was an incredible hunter for entering the realm of demons. With the boy dying, Do-woon remembers his dream and promises to save him somehow. Suddenly, a desperate scream calls for Bong-soo, and our protagonist realizes help has arrived. It's Manager Kim, flying in the sky carried by a chimera screaming the boy's name. The creature simply drops him in the air, and he runs awkwardly through the snow toward the boy. The manager ends up tripping and falling face first onto the ground right in front of Do-woon. He gets up worried, but Do-woon cuts him off and tells him to treat the boy first. Without wasting time, the manager begins to use his healing ability on Bong-soo. But he soon realizes it's no use as the boy's vital force is already exhausted. With a sad look, he explains that not even the best potions in the world would save the boy. Daewon doesn't understand why such a good boy is in this state and asks about vital force. But then the protagonist says maybe there is a way, leaving Manager Kim shocked with hope. Then he starts drawing an ancient alchemy circle in the snow, which the manager recognizes. The manager warns that this is a mana extraction technique, something very dangerous and forbidden. To make matters worse, it would be necessary to extract the mana from everyone there, with no guarantee anyone would survive. Daewon surprises the manager by asking him to use only his mana, leaving the man terrified. With a smile, he explains he can't let Bong-soo owe his life to that riffraff. The scene changes to a lab where scientists say number 17's mana was immeasurable. We are shown they wanted to use his near-infinite mana to create the alchemy of life. But back then, even all wounded, Do-woon could only laugh at those researchers' faces. He remembers deflecting their power, blowing up the building because he didn't like the idea. Despite everything, the protagonist admits the alchemy circle itself was very well made. Back in the present, he takes off his shirt and asks the manager if they can begin. The manager prepares for the ritual, warning he's going to start the mana extraction. With hands on his back, the man concentrates, promising to do this for Bong-soo. Then gigantic blue energy explodes from Daewon's body, illuminating everything around. His vital force materializes, and the manager is shocked to see the scene unfold. He prepares to transfer the energy while the mandrakes stare at him with anger. Out of nowhere, the little creatures jump and begin attacking Manager Kim non-stop. Daewon explains they understood everything wrong. Thinking he was being attacked, the manager tries to calm the critters down, asking them to stop the confusion. He thinks their concern is cute but needs them to leave so he can continue. With the extracted energy, a healing potion is finally given to the unconscious boy. Everyone watches the treatment, hoping the young hunter manages to recover. Gradually, the curse mark on Bong-soo's arm begins to disappear completely. His breathing finally returns to normal, showing the worst had passed. The manager cries with happiness, celebrating that the plan worked and Bong-soo will live. Daewon comments that it's strange to think he saved someone using the experiments he suffered. Daewon gives a slight smile, thinking about how life can be quite funny sometimes. The manager promises to take care of Bong-soo, but the chimera questions how he will cross the gate. He then reflects on the alchemy circle, remembering it can be used to extend life. Therefore, he warns the manager he's going to erase his memories after the next step. But the manager panics upon hearing that the other hunter's mana will be extracted. The wound explains it's their punishment and the extracted mana will be discarded. His chimera friends suggest erasing the hunter's memories, but the protagonist has another idea. He says people don't change easily, so they need to carry the memory of the shame. The hunters are terrified by the decision, while the chimera seems to accept the plan. Then Daewon thinks better of it and thinks it would be a waste to just send the guys away. Suddenly, a brilliant idea appears in his mind, changing the whole direction of the situation. He suggests the hunters can build a research lab right there on the mountain. Daewon says it would be a place just for the manager, who gets super excited about the possibility. Thrilled, the manager runs to prepare everything, barely knowing he's going to work much harder now. Then he asks the Eagle Man to watch the hunters as he needs to go somewhere else. With everything resolved, Daewon prepares to finally leave that place with his new friends. He takes the small mandrake affectionately and announces it's time to take her home. Just then, a giant blue bird crosses the skies and flies toward him rapidly. The hunter calls him Blue and asks him to wait a bit, petting him. Then he kneels in the snow and grabs his backpack to store the rescued little creatures. The mandrakes that were on the ground run excitedly into the bag along with the others. With the little one on his shoulder, he says it doesn't matter if it's monster or human. Going back home is always good. But then he puts her on the ground, explaining that it's time to say goodbye. He can't just take the new monarch away just because he wants to, leaving the little one shocked. Dawon consoles her, saying it's not a goodbye as he also lives there and will visit her. The mandrake gets calmer, understanding they will still see each other many times. But when he turns to leave, the creature starts walking in the opposite direction. She signals with her head as if calling the hunter to follow her. He accompanies her along a strange path, noticing it's away from her habitat. Suddenly, they arrive at the entrance of a dark cave, and Dawon seems to recognize the place. Upon entering, Dawon realizes the place is very similar to the old cave he knew. He notices the location is clean and has marks on the floor, a sign that someone comes here often. The small mandrake points to a crevice, and he imagines that was where she bore fruit. With an excited jump, the little creature confirms it was she herself who found this place. But suddenly, the hunter's expression changes upon hearing a noise at the cave entrance. He sees the group of mandrakes and thinks they came looking for their leader who disappeared. Then an older mandrake with a mustache approaches the group with an air of concern. The little one puts herself in front of the old guy, seeming to understand what's happening there. The elder stares at the young leader with a serious look as if he were going to scold her. Then the two begin to talk, and the little one seems to be passing her position to him. The old man gets desperate with the news, but the young one seems very determined to leave. Suddenly, she begins to float, and Dawon wonders if she gave up being the monarch. He is shocked and questions if she's sure, thinking it's his fault. With tears of happiness, the mandrake confirms her decision, ready to follow her friend. The scene ends with Dawon and the little one resting beside a bonfire inside the cave. Dawon accepts her decision as everyone chooses where they want to live while the little one sleeps. With the mandrake by his side, he stays calm in the cave, enjoying the warmth of the fire. The scene changes and we see Bong-Su lying on the rock, starting to slowly wake up from the coma. He opens his eyes a bit confused, not really understanding where he ended up. Suddenly, the boy encounters the birdmen who stare at him with curiosity. Bong-Su goes into total panic and lets out a scream of pure terror upon seeing the monsters in front of him. Completely terrified, he can barely breathe while the Chimera asks if he's Bong-Su. Then, the woman welcomes him to the realm of demons, leaving the boy even more shocked. The Chimeras watch Bong-Su from afar, commenting that he seems quite sad. They imagine he's shocked as he almost died his first time in the demon realm. The scene changes, showing the boy discovering he turned into an awakened. Bong-Su gets super excited as now he knows Mr. Park was telling the truth the whole time. But upon leaving, a hooded man stops him, asking if he was newly awakened. The stranger then smiles, congratulating the boy for becoming a future hunter, and offers a soda. He tosses the can to Bong-Su, who catches it in the air, still not understanding anything about the situation. The man says it's a welcoming tea, and the boy thanks him, all happy for the gift. We return to the present with him outraged for having been deceived since he was just an orphan. The boy then falls into the snow, crying a lot and apologizing to Mr. Park. Meanwhile, far from there, a giant blue bird flies over the frozen forest. In its master's pocket, a cute little creature with a bow wakes up from its nap. We then see its kind one, who turns surprised to feel the little one moving. From up high, he spots wolves in the snow and wonders if they've already started the lab construction work. He lands hard on the ground, and the eagle Chimera welcomes him, saying he finally arrived. The eagle Chimera explains that the workers are preparing materials and leveling the terrain. Cheon Di-won is relieved as he thought they were going to make excuses not to work properly. But actually, Jia taught them a lesson, leaving the big guys scared to death. In a flashback, we see the hunters outraged for having their mana extracted because of a brat. One of them freaks out as it took him 20 years to reach Class A, and now he's been demoted. The eagle Chimera then knocks the man out without mercy and simply calls for the next in line. The others are terrified, wondering if it's worth risking against two disaster-class monsters. One of them has the idea to join forces to attack, but is trampled before finishing the sentence. Jia appears imposing, asking what they would do after joining forces, and now what. The scene cuts, showing that even Manager Kim got beaten badly by that pair of chimeras. She then warns that she doesn't forgive anyone who messes with children and tells them to cooperate already. Jia gives an ultimatum, asking if they are going to hand over the mana or if they prefer to die right there. Sometime later, she yells at them for resting, and Dawon comments how scary she is. The eagle Chimera says at this pace the lab will be ready soon and they can handle the job. Manager Kim approaches, reporting he fulfilled the order and already extracted all the hunter's mana. Cheon Daonoon asked the manager how Oh Bong-soo is, wanting to know the boy's state. The man replies that he's already awake, but is in a state of shock and invites him to see him. Daonoon then approaches the boy who was sitting alone on a rock and asks if he woke up. Bong-soo is startled, but Do-woon asks him not to be formal and just call him Hyung. He looks closely at the boy, noticing the near-death experience changed him a lot. The front of his hair turned white and his mana hole is much larger now. With that, he sits next to the boy and asks why he has that funeral face. Bong-soo vents saying he feels useless after everything that happened. He cries, explaining he was tricked by a stranger and doesn't know how he's going to live. Daewon listens to everything in silence for a moment and then calls the boy's name. He stands up and with a serious tone, orders Bong-soo to follow him for a moment. The two walk to the group of defeated hunters who get tense with their presence. Do-woon then grabs the man who tricked the boy, lifting him by the hood effortlessly. He asks if it's that guy and punches him in the face with all his strength. Fallen on the ground, D-woon explains that the man used a curse to trick him with lies. D-woon then offers a choice, saying he can kill the man for him if he wants. The boy stays silent for an instant, gritting his teeth while thinking about what to do. With his hand clenched into a fist, he answers no because that was not what he wanted. After all, he survived and the man already lost his ability, but he knows others like him will appear. Therefore, he decides he's going to get stronger so no one else falls into a trap like that. Hearing that, a corner of the mouth smile appears on Cheon Daewon's face, satisfied. He helps the man get up and warns it was Oh Bong-soo who saved his life. Afterward, he points to the boy and says he will begin learning to train mana with Manager Kim. Bong-soo is surprised by the proposal, and Daewon reveals he also came from the slums like him. The manager and the Eagle Chimera agree, saying it's no problem being from there and they will help him. The other Chimera comments that with the face Daewon has, his words sound very comforting. The boy can't handle the emotion and starts crying with happiness and relief right there. He thanks everyone for the support and gives Manager Kim a tight hug. Do-woon thinks to himself that, if he trains the boy right, he might even surpass Nam Kiseop. Then the little creature in his pocket jumps out, agreeing with the idea excitedly. The Eagle Chimera notices the little creature, and Do-woon explains the old monarch passed the title to her. He then pets the new mandrake, saying that's why he brought her along. Do-woon announces he's going to the forest zone to show the new home to the little creature. With a jump, he flies off with the mandrake on his head, saying goodbye to the team. Bong-soo keeps watching him leave, thinking that guy appeared out of nowhere and started helping. The boy smiles, wondering what kind of person his Hyung, who just saved his life, was. But the Eagle Chimera answers bluntly, saying Cheon Daewon is a psychopath. The other Chimera explains better, saying he has nothing to lose and therefore fears nothing. She concludes that he just wants to build a house in the demon realm and live in peace. The scene changes and Do-woon arrives in a green field but sees Kim Nari and a man agitated. The man spots him and yells his name, super relieved he finally arrived there. Nari runs to him desperately, asking why he took so long to come home. She then yells that Gu and Sasa disappeared, and we see the two huddled in a dark cave. Cheon-doon doesn't understand, asking what happened there with them. Nari cries, explaining they disappeared in the morning, and she and her uncle searched everywhere. We are shown they searched by the waterfall and in the forest but found nothing. The protagonist then stops for an instant, trying to analyze the situation calmly to solve it. He uses his mana to scan the whole area, releasing a large wave of blue energy. The sweep finds no sign of intruders nor any strange energy nearby. With glowing eyes, he asks if something unusual happened before they disappeared. The man gets embarrassed but ends up telling that Sasa fought with the mandrakes again and lost. He explains that Sasa picks a fight with everyone when Dune isn't around. After the fight, the animal got irritated and slept all day, which Nari confirms. Dune puts the pieces together and wonders if Sasa wasn't already starting his skin shedding. The scene shifts to a few hours earlier with Gu flying very determinedly through the forest. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise and notices Sasa's suspicious walk on the ground. He sees Sasa was up to something again with that face of someone about to mess up. Gu realizes right away he was going after the mandrake's leaves once more. Said and done, there was Sasa again going after the newest mandrake of the group. He strikes by surprise, and the small plant screams in fright at the sudden attack. The other mandrakes hear the noise and turn around, while Sasa seems very proud of his mischief. One of them approaches, praising his courage, but with a very threatening tone in the air. Suddenly, the mandrakes show their shadow forms, warning they are too strong for him. Without even giving time to react, one of them hits Sasa with an energy blow full force. The yellow animal flies far with the impact and falls flat on the ground, defeated. He stays there crying in pain and sadness for having been beaten one more time by that group. Then an orange flower falls right in front of him, leaving him confused by the situation. Gu appears scolding Sasa for picking on them since there's so much bush around. He then offers the flower saying he picked it for having the strongest demonic energy. Sasa eats the flower and gets super happy, and Gu wonders if that's how the cook felt. But suddenly, he notices something strange and is shocked by what he sees on Sasa's back. The animal's skin was all peeling off, and Gu wonders if he's already going to shed his skin. It is explained to us that skin shedding is dangerous, and we see the silhouette of a creature in a cave. It's explained that no one can help, as any contact can cause unwanted mutations. Gu realizes Sasa's skin shedding is going to begin seriously at any moment. He gets worried as Sasa is young and doesn't have the strength to do the process alone. Desperate, he flies off yelling, looking for anyone who can help. He sees everyone is busy and realizes he needs to take Sasa to a hot and humid place. But then he gets discouraged as there's no way to explain the situation to Nari and the worker. He then keeps wondering when Cha-in Do-woon will finally return home. Looking at Sasa, he realizes he has no choice and that he'll have to act himself. With that, he grabs his friend and puts him on his head, saying he'll take him personally. The scene returns to the present with Gu entering a dark cave with Sasa in his beak. He tries to calm down, thinking it's just a small cave on any random mountain, but he almost died several times on the way, passing through a forest full of red eyes. Finally, he lands and says that place must be good enough for the process. Suddenly, a giant eye opens in the dark, and a terrifying scream echoes through the place. Then a flock of monstrous bats appears out of nowhere, leaving the two totally terrified. The vampire bats advance full force onto the duo, ready to turn them into dinner. But Gu fills himself with courage and yells that he will protect Sasa at all costs. Then very strong light explodes in the cave, blinding everyone for an instant. And from the smoke, Cheon Daewon appears, saying he finally found them there. The two are shocked, and Gu asks how he managed to reach that place. Daewon explains calmly that he used his mana detection ability to track them. He adds by saying he already knows their energy signature, that's why it was possible. The protagonist then looks at Sasa and confirms he really is about to shed his skin. He asks if Sasa wants to find a good place for it since now he's safe. The little creature points to a corner, and Daewon asks if he liked that little space there. He thinks the humidity is good, but maybe the temperature needs raising a bit locally. With a touch, he heats the rock, and Gu comments it's warm like the volcanic zone. Gu thinks it's strange, thinking it must be a type of rapid evolution, not common skin shedding. Daewon confirms the suspicion, explaining that skin shedding is an effort to survive. He says that after losing so much, Sasa felt he needed to evolve to not die. This survival instinct must have activated an evolution, leaving the animal with red eyes. Daewon agrees and says he's anxious to see what Sasa will turn into after this. Suddenly, a very bright light begins to shine coming from where Sasa was. The two are shocked by what's emerging from the brilliance, understanding nothing. From the midst of the light, an orange flower appears, leaving them even more confused. And then the new Sasa emerges with the flower on its head and a much cuter appearance. Gu appears with a strange flower, and Daewon says for now, it's better to go home. A while later, already at Cheon Daewon's residence, tranquility doesn't last long. Nari arrives running and screaming, asking where they had gone. She continues the scolding, but Daewon replies he would have warned if they could talk. Then Nam Kiziak gets worried about Sasa, noticing the strange flower on its head. Daewon explains she must be tired, so it's best to let her sleep for now. He gives a little smile, agreeing the little creature really needs some rest. The scene cuts to the mandrakes, who also make a sound, as if agreeing with that. Then he decides to give some mana food since he hadn't paid attention to them lately. Right after, he announces the family gained a new member, leaving a mystery in the air. It is revealed that one of the mandrakes, the biggest one, now stays in his clothes pocket. Fortunately, the other creatures seem to welcome the new group leader very well. Daewon presents the garden to them, relieved there was no fight over leadership. The smallest mandrake gets super excited with the new home, jumping with joy. But suddenly, the little one stares at the leader with a look of challenge, surprising everyone. Dwon realizes the small mandrake doesn't want to leave his side, getting very surprised with the creature nestled on his shoulder. He even thinks if he should get a pouch for it. Kaisok asks if it's a new one, but he explains he re-encountered the one that had separated. Nam Kaisok comments this reunion must be destiny, leaving Daewon quite confused. Then Nari, holding Gu, says the little creature likes him and he should always take care of it. She suggests he do dodak like it's a baby, but he has no idea what that is. To show, she starts patting Gu on the head, who gets visibly irritated. Then she demonstrates it's the way to pat a baby's back to make it sleep. While Gu screams for her to stop, Daewon thinks Dodak sounds like a good name. Suddenly, a masked woman arrives, and Nari runs to greet her all happy. The woman asks if the lab is ready, leaving Kiziak quite nervous. He bows all awkwardly, and she says it's been a while. Cook. Daewon gets confused while the word cook leaves Kiziak all blushing with shame. With eyes on fire, he shouts that he will definitely get a chef license. The woman warns the lab is ready, and Nari and Kiziak get super excited to see it. Daewon suggests they visit the lab tomorrow as he needs to see how Salsa is. With that, Kiziak gets excited to make dinner, and Nari already thinks about cold weather clothes. Night arrives, and the masked woman observes the camp from atop a tree. Suddenly, her glowing eye focuses on something as if noticing strange movement. She sees Sasa and the mandrakes gathered in the middle of the field up to something. The flower on Sasa's head starts shining, illuminating everything around it in the dark. The other creatures get confused, not understanding what's happening with that flower. Then the flower's light gets even stronger, and Sasa seems a bit scared. The lead mandrake gets irritated, thinking the flower is wilting and will cause trouble. Sasa closes her eyes tight, and when she opens them again, it seems something changed. With a jump, she climbs onto the mandrake's head, who screams in surprise at the attitude. Next, the creatures follow Sasa to a hole that appeared there in the dirt. The small snake enters the hole using the glowing flower like a flashlight. The mandrakes gather at the edge, watching Sasa nestle inside the hole. But soon after, she comes out of there, waving as if saying goodbye to everyone. In the darkness, a sinister smile with a glowing red eye emerges from the earth. In the blink of an eye, the creature advances full force with the flower on its head highlighted. But suddenly, Sasa returns to normal, appearing confused by what just happened. She starts shaking her head from side to side as if looking for someone. The small snake then starts crying with tears running down her face. Nari arrives and asks Daewon why Sasa turned into a flower pot suddenly. He explains she must have been trying to get close to the mandrakes, disguising herself as a plant. Seeing the little one cry, he says she must be frustrated and it's better they go sleep. The scene changes to a place full of snow, where Nari and the T-Squadron leaders stand open-mouthed. They are facing a huge wooden building, which Do-woon says he built. The Birdman confirms the quality, and Do-woon boasts, saying they are professionals at this. At that moment, manager Kim arrives, explaining he was going to get materials in the human world. Do-woon is surprised to learn Bong Su returned, and the manager warns he is training Mana. With a satisfied smile on his face, he seems to approve the news he just heard. Seeing the men kneeling in the snow, he comments that now all that's left is sending these guys back. Daewon asks manager Kim to cast a silent spell, and he agrees instantly. He explains the spell will activate if they think about speaking, but the leader is amazed. The man says it's an ancient spell, but Daewon guarantees he will make it unbreakable. The leader doubts it's possible, but Daewon confirms with a smile wrapped in his aura. The scene shifts to an office where rank A hunters returned as if they were rank D. Congressman Park Woo-young is indignant that they couldn't break a simple spell. The association president, Go Jong-hyuk, gets serious while the other questions the logic. He then remembers the incident 57 years ago, saying it's the same situation. Someone sealed the spell with mana, making it impossible to break, which shocks the congressman. Jong-hyuk suspects Lee Won-soo is involved since he allegedly burned down a lab. Park thinks the old era idea is absurd but sees a chance to attack his rival. Without another choice, he decides to initiate the slum cleanup project, shocking the president. With an evil smile, the congressman decides to start the plan earlier than predicted.